3, 2, 1, we're off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to, you don't even know the name of the podcast, do you? Criminally Underrated Men.
I thought it was two sucking each other.
And there's the very first words out of our guest's mouth. I look forward to just beeping out every second thing he says. Ladies and gentlemen.
Let the games begin.
Let the games begin.
Let the games begin.
This is my good friend, longtime friend, comedian. What else would you call yourself? Do you have any other introducing terms?
Incredibly good looking.
Incredibly good looking. I'm getting nervous just sitting here. This is Jimmy Kuratz, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Jimmy. Give the cameras away. You've got one there, one there, one there.
Am I supposed to look at the cameras?
No. But
they're everywhere.
it's a podcast.
So
You got to talk to me.
here?
This isn't Jimmy's. Jimmy's about 72 years old, so he's used to broadcast
What was
TV.
the question?
Currently none. But question number 1: will you have sex with me? This is the casting couch. This is,
Again.
Yeah. The problem with the actual casting couch porn series is that the couch is black and makes cum stains visible. So I got a more aged cum-colored couch.
I'm gonna leave now. This place is like a rape dungeon. I said as soon as I walked in.
Okay. All right. So, Jimmy, I like to start all this podcast with a question, 3 questions, and I normally put them together, but I think that's too intimidating. So let's go one at a time. Firstly,
How many people have you had on so far?
3. You're the 4th.
Who are the other ones?
Adam,
Tom?
Matt Storer, and Tom.
Oh.
Yes. So you're the second comedian. So you got to be fucking funny.
I'm not funny.
You've got to be the funniest fucking cunt you can possibly be.
No, Matt's funny.
Matt is very funny. I think he's one of the funniest in Perth.
I'm intriguing.
All right.
I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I'm intrigued to hear your answer to the following question.
Right.
Now, question number 1. What item could you not live without? If you went on a desert island, you could not live without one item. What would it be?
Water?
That is a brilliant answer. That is like the most logical Jimmy answer. All right, let's say your needs are covered. You get food, and you got water and shelter. So it's like nothing utilitarian. It's just you get one bonus item. Your fucking 3-meter petrol-powered dildo does not count.
Lube.
That's pretty good.
Actually, no. You know what? More importantly, this right here. This is what I would need.
I love the jeans and thongs combo. Which
This right here, Carmex. Because there's nothing worse.
That's
than
lube for
getting
your
a
lips.
cold sore.
Yeah, right.
And you could probably use it as lube.
All right, that is a practical answer. I like that. That's good.
That's what I'm going with.
You
Carmex.
can,
Because when you get sunburn on your lips and shit like that, it's terrible.
That's a wise old man answer.
Thank you.
There we go.
I am an old man.
You most young people give some sort of ridiculous,
I need my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I can call my mommy. I'd be like, can you get a plane to get me off this
Yeah,
island?
no, this man just needs Carmex. I want to make sure that's working. Second one, I don't know why that's flashing, whatever. I'm just going to cough just to get this out of my system. Okay. I swear I'm not sick.
That's how I got COVID.
Now, second question. Okay. Favorite song? Give us like your top. I know it's hard to like whittle down to one.
Can we do favorite movie instead?
No,
I
favorite.
just saw it on the plane the other night.
What was it?
Everything.
Deliverance.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
What is that about?
Multiverse shit. It's fucking awesome.
Do you know I've got no interest in that kind of stuff?
That's because you're a douchebag.
No, I don't. You know what it is, man? I heard like.
You don't watch Rick and Morty, do you?
No.
You're a terrible.
I'm an
person.
adult. That's.
Wow.
Your typical Rick and Morty viewer.
It's a good movie.
No, it's Rick and Morty is I've seen it.
Rick and
It's
Morty's
very good. I remember like being in year 10 and physics kids would always come to like lunch being like, "Oi man, you wouldn't believe that the universe is this big and it's expanding at this rate," and it's like it got to a point where I was just like, "Cool, man. Cool. I'm not nothing about the way that I act changes dependent on any single physics theory. It becomes overwhelming at a point."
Buy dirt.
Huh?
I didn't pay attention to anything you said. I was thinking about what was my favorite song. Buy Dirt.
Buy Dirt? Because you look a bit like Joe Dirt, so maybe there's a good connection there.
That's me. That is.
Who sings Buy Dirt?
Yeah. Luke Bryant, maybe? No, it's somebody else and Luke Bryan.
Is it country?
Yeah.
Country. You got me into Thank God I'm a Country Boy.
That's also a good song.
That is also a country song.
That's
like that.
Earl Dibbles Jr.
Is it?
Yeah.
That is the most.
No.
Earl Dibbles Jr.
Thank God I'm a country boy.
And
That's John Denver?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the one. Well, he does Country Roads as well.
Yeah.
And finally, what historical figure, dead or alive, would you like to have a beer with?
Oh, yeah, I saw...
Is it Adam talking about this?
It has to be a historical figure.
Well, he can still...
Adam said the person was still alive.
No, he's dead. Adam said Bob Hawke, who's
was.
famous...
And you went...
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah, because it's a famous... He's famous for
person
drinking beer super quick.
Dead or alive, who I'd like to have a beer with.
So you get like 20 minutes of their
I'm trying
time.
to think of somebody who was a raging alcoholic and had to stop. And then I would get...
What, so you get more time
I
with
would
him?
get them started again.
Winston Churchill, I think he was a pretty big drinker.
No.
Gorbachev?
I don't...
Was it Gorbachev? Who was the Russian guy?
My father wasn't famous.
Oh. Oh, Jimmy. Don't say nice shit on this podcast.
That's who I wish I could have a beer with.
That is actually a beautiful answer.
You know, inconsiderate prick died 20 years ago. Bastard.
Big influence on you, huh?
Yeah. That's... Yeah. If your father's around, he tends to be a big influence. Like Mladen.
Yeah, who's going to probably boot us out of here as soon as he gets here.
Is he going to be on your podcast?
My dad influences you. In my dad's... I should... That is a great idea. My dad influences with the thong, mate. You live by the thong, you die by the thong in our household.
Famous person. I got one now.
Okay.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Self-reliance? Did he write that?
Yeah.
Because I would like to get into that a little bit later, but that's just for a quick rundown. If you were to summarize self-reliance and the most important points you took from it, what would they be?
Stop being a and actually take control of your life like a fucking man. That's it.
Yes.
That's pretty much it. That and that we ignore the kind of internal dialogue that we have in our head, and we just kind of let it. We just think it's normal, but we don't realize that it's actually probably the only miracle that exists. And if you actually pay attention to what's going on in there, whether it be through meditation or whatever, that it's really helpful.
That's interesting because
that's the non-hippie summary of it.
Well, the point of meditation is not to stop that, but to notice it and let it pass. It's interesting that he's saying that's actually... Because in the sort of world of mindfulness, like, that's the enemy. Like, internal dialogue is kind of the enemy. So they're saying that, like, don't clamp it down, but we spend all day in internal dialogue, and it's like, there's no route to happiness that goes through internal dialogue.
It's a little kind of complicated in that you have your internal dialogue that's running about your day all the time, but when you don't pay attention, there's like a background internal dialogue. But it's not an internal dialogue. It's like consciousness is everywhere in all things going all the time, and you're either paying attention to that thing or you're not. Yeah, I don't know. Read the book.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you could explain it in 2 minutes, his book would be 2 pages long.
I would like to see you as like doing the foreword on the next edition of the book. It's kind of like consciousness. Just fucking read the book.
I think when people ask me, because I did a whole bunch of study of religion like for 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And people ask, well, can you explain it? In a 2-minute conversation, my conclusions required a 274-page book for me to write.
Which you wrote.
Yeah. So how are you supposed to explain it? Here's the answer to religion. No. Well, I mean,
but yeah,
the final conclusion is... So this is what upset me when I wrote that book and I did all that research and everything, was after 8 years, I'm sitting there and I write the final, and I went, God! I just wasted 8 years to say what everybody says, to say what Jesus said in all of his crap after being in the desert was, just like treat other people nice, man. That's it. Everything else is superfluous bullshit. Oh, you gotta follow the 613 Mosaic laws, or you gotta do these rituals. No, just don't be a cunt.
Let me just backtrack
Can I
very
say
quickly.
cunt?
You can say cunt.
I just can't say fuck. You'll have to bleep that.
Yeah. Not allowed to say crap. Just to backtrack a bit, just quickly explain. So you were raised...
Can we say the N-word? No.
Let me get a question out. Okay.
If you were like me when you were growing up and you were poor white trash, but you had the benefit of having 4 black friends who told you.
Did you get the N-word pass?
That say that you can say the N-word.
Yeah.
It turns out they're not your friends.
He's trying new material right now as we speak in real time.
Anyway.
Okay, let me just backtrack for 2 seconds. Firstly,
what was the third question?
No, you already answered that. So you were raised in a very Christian part of America. Yes, where exactly? Davenport, Iowa.
Yes, I was in Iowa, and then from like mid-primary school through high school for like 8 or 9 years, we were in the suburbs of Chicago. And then as soon as I could get out of there, I have tried to avoid big cities since then.
At what point did you...
So my formative years are probably, as far as philosophically, would be those years, suburbs of Chicago.
Right.
Terrible place.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things about it.
I mean, it's... People love it as far as a big city. I just don't like big cities. Continue.
Yeah, okay.
Ask me some questions.
No, this is how a conversation works. So this is good.
How, a conversation or our conversation?
Yeah. So you were raised there. This was your obviously a Christian upbringing, right? Were your parents quite Christian?
Not really.
Okay.
They were Catholic.
Right. Being Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like because of But my mother's side of the family, not really religious. Like they're not really religious.
Okay.
But it's just that you're in that area. Everybody you know is religious.
Yeah, so it's kind of this was it more that, they were identifying as Catholic but were kind of lazy, didn't really do a whole lot about it. They were just like, if someone asked them, they'd be like, yeah, we're Catholic, whatever.
Yeah. And we have that belief system.
Yeah.
But like not really invested in it.
Then you did a shitload of research on the Bible. Why did you decide to do this? It was 8 years.
Yeah.
Why did you do this?
Because if everybody keeps telling you, you need the vaccine, you go, based on what? And they're like, well, because I heard from a friend who, they say that COVID is bad. And you're like, okay, what? So then this is how it is in America with religion. You got to believe this, otherwise you're going to hell. And I'm like, but based on what? And they're like, it says it in the Bible. I go, show me where it says it. They go, oh, I don't know. You'd have to ask my pastor. So then I go and ask the pastor, and they were like, well, it's a little more complicated than that. And I was like, well, can you give me a straight answer? And they were like, well, it comes down to faith. And I was like, well, what do the scriptures say? And they were like, yeah. Like so I was like, okay, clearly I got to do this myself. So I, for 6.5 years, did a minimum of 1 hour of research every single night. In 6.5 years, I missed 4 days.
That is unbelievable.
And then for the next 1.5 years, I wrote the book. And then I got to the end of it, and the whole thing is like, it's great stuff. But like one of my mates was like, why aren't you like selling this? And I was like, because I don't really want. I just did it for me, really, to try to understand. Because before that, I was not a functional person. I mean, you look at me now, Adrian, you're like, oh mate, he's so
a
functional.
role model for me.
Yeah, that's right. Before that, I was not functional, because philosophically, I was so conflicted with things that didn't make sense. Like, what makes sense is if you be a good person, the world's a great place. In Christianity, that doesn't matter. All that matters is, did you say, I accept Jesus? If you said that, and you're a serial killer, but you said, I love Jesus, then you go to heaven.
Jeffrey Dahmer, funnily enough, who we were just talking about, repented, afterwards and was like, I became a Christian.
He's going to heaven.
But isn't there some...
people? But if you're a Buddhist, lived an exemplary life your whole life, but somebody said, you need to accept Jesus, and you went, no, it's not really my thing, going to hell. True story. Now, that is not really based on the scripture. That's based on the theology that's been built up around everything. So, my final conclusion about the scriptures about Christianity is this. If anybody watches this in America, we're both going to be hunted. Christianity is only very loosely based on the scripture. It's like the movie Braveheart. Yeah, it's based on reality, but the movie's kind of like 10% accurate. The rest of it is just shit that they spun to make a good story.
So you think that's exactly what's happened in terms of...
I don't think that's exactly what's happened.
That's
exactly what's happened.
He was there. So...
Well, no, when you read the scripture and then
For rookies like myself,
it's totally different.
So scripture being what's written in the Bible.
Yeah, correct.
Firsthand by
Here's a perfect example. Everybody knows, without a fact, how many animals of each kind did Noah have on the ark?
Two. Yeah.
Everybody. 2 birds, 2 unclean beasts, 2 clean beasts, 2 of everything. I mean, first of all, whatever, it was
the logistical, nightmare that must have been.
Everybody knows that 2 of each, because in Genesis chapter 6, verse 20 and 21, that's what it says. So that's what they tell you. What they don't tell you, they never allude to the verses a couple later when the next chapter starts. Chapter 7, verses 2, 3, 4, and it says 7 of every bird and 7 of every unclean animal.
And there's a lot of shit in the Bible.
So here's the whole thing: is if they tell you that 2 and 7 are the same thing, right? Obviously, it's different.
Yeah.
So if they're not telling you the whole truth, what else aren't they telling you the whole truth about? Are they telling you the whole truth about Jesus didn't really think he was the only Son of God?
But are authors of each book in the Bible different, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's going to be
natural misinterpretations. That's not the same person saying two.
Disagreements in philosophy. So they have different philosophies from book to book. The Old Testament has a different philosophy than the New Testament.
How do you compare the Old and the New Testament?
Well, very simply, the Old Testament is all about God tells you what to do and punishes you, and if you don't do it right, it's fire and brimstone. And the New Testament is all about love, because Jesus is the new covenant, and God is suddenly a friendly person.
Why did that change happen?
Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Because the Apostle Paul screwed everything up by introducing his own philosophy into the New Testament and made everything up. The New Testament is not Christianity. The New Testament is Paulism. This is what a lot of scholars will say, because the philosophy that you see in the New Testament is all based on Paul's writings. It's not based on what Jesus said.
Right.
Jesus and Paul disagreed on so many things. Like Jesus said, if you want to get to heaven, he's telling some rich man, if you want to get to heaven, sell all your stuff and come follow me. Because he was Jewish. Jesus believed in this idea that your acts, what you do, go sell your stuff, get away from that, and come listen to me in the desert preaching. Paul, confronted with the same thing somewhere in Acts, he's in jail and somebody comes to him and says, what do I need to do to inherit eternal life? Do I need to do certain things? And Paul said, no, you just need to accept Jesus as your Savior. Whereas Jesus said, don't just say yes, your acts are important.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard or entertained this idea.
That's because you're Christian.
Well, not really.
I never told you.
No, but see, it's different. Okay, so I struggle to comprehend a like you were saying, like where everyone around you in the community was so Christian. It was like, believe this, you have to believe this.
Yeah, uniquely American.
Yes, because here we're like one of the most non-religious countries in the world.
So refreshing.
I was going to say, you must really notice that when you came here, that no one's pushing anything. Aussies just don't give a fuck about anything. I think the most un-Australian thing is to care about anything.
A real conversation. I mean, people here I figured this out. Australians do have they have their beliefs. Even like deep-rooted to a degree. But if you ask an Australian, what do you think of God? They go, yeah, there's probably a God. Let's have a beer, mate. And that's it. That's the end of the conversation. Yeah, there's probably
a good clip, right?
I'll find out when I'm dead. And that's really the best approach anyway, because anybody who tells you that they know the answer is just selling you some shit.
What do you think of the kind of Jordan Peterson-esque argument of religion itself, in that it's the kind of structure by which our entire civilization was built around? Therefore, whether you believe in the deity of a god, whether you believe in the hierarchy of it, all that aside, behaving as if there is a god is the best way or the optimal way forward for a society and the individual.
Okay, so Jordan Peterson I really like, but I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, and I stopped paying attention to any arguments about religion for the most part. But I will say this: yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like in Italy, they're not like as religious as they are in America. I mean, maybe the older people, but even like people would say, look, it's all about the fact that you're in these small villages, and in Croatia, when I lived there, they're not like super religious like Americans, but the whole thing is you come out of the small village on a Sunday, everybody meets and eats and hangs out, and it bonds the community, regardless of, you know, the intricacies about, well, do you believe this about Jesus? Like, do you believe that he was God or he was the Son of God? Or like, because that's the differences between, like, I think Catholicism and Orthodoxy. Yeah. Right? Is like that, like, is he God or is he just God in the flesh, but he's just the Son of God? Anyway, those things aren't as important as the fact that there's something that brings people together, like footy. Who cares? Footy.
That is the religion of Australia. Just fucking footy.
And it brings people together. And
the Holy Grail,
it gives them
mate.
Something to discuss, to hang out, to be a community, to argue about. You know what I mean? Like, it bonds them, like NFL in America. You know?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when you take, and this is the argument moving forward, where it's like, oh yes, we're in a post-God period. It's like, oh yeah, religion no longer has the influence it once did. Oh, this mic's still good. No longer has the influence it once did. That's all well and good, but that doesn't just go away. It's like we've got the religious impulse still there, like deeply hardwired. We need something to fill that void.
Well,
like I really feel like there's no getting away from it.
What's interesting, again, going back to Bible stuff, is that, so we look at, like, when you get a news report, right? It's like, here, what's supposed to be, here are the facts. The way that the Old Testament was written is essentially, it was their newspaper, but it wasn't, here are the facts and here's why they happened. It was, here's why things happen. God wants this, good or bad. The facts were kind of like secondary things that were recorded. So the facts aren't always really consistent because everybody's always searching. What's hardwired into us is to search for, what is the meaning of life? How is this all happening? We try to make sense of that. So I think that regardless of religious dogma and doctrine, you can't get rid of that. And I think as well, just kind of a side note, like, I'm not an atheist.
Yeah, after all this, where do you stand?
Here's where I stand. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's at least within the context of our universe, right? There's the second law of thermodynamics, I think, right? It's everywhere, in all things, giving to them all of their properties and actions. It knows how to run everything and keep it organized. Or at least it does keep it organized, not that it maybe knows how to do that. The basis of organization is the energy at the atomic level binding things together. If you take the energy out of my shirt, it doesn't turn to ash. It ceases to exist. So physical matter is merely the manifestation of energy. In the Bible, God is all-knowing, everywhere all at once, controlling all things. How is it any different? So as far as I'm concerned, energy is that thing. And if consciousness exists in all things, it's somehow bound to that energy. It's somehow the same thing. So that's it. That's everything.
That is truly everything. Fucking hell. Man, I thought that we would get to this level in the, like, hour and a half in.
So wait, this is more messed up. So everybody thinks of consciousness as this thing. Okay, we know that we recognize it in our brain. Consciousness exists in our brain. But, like, somebody gets shot or stabbed or they take out a part of a brain for a tumor, consciousness doesn't cease to exist. Right? So it's what they know. There's no research ever. They can't even begin to figure out how they would research it. There is no research to prove the idea that consciousness is generated in the brain. We know we recognize it there, but there's no way to say it's generated there. So the alternative hypothesis, which has also no research, but it's more the Eastern line of thinking, is that consciousness exists everywhere as a stream running through everything, and you choose if you dip your foot into it or not, right? So there's the potential that instead of a generator, that much like the stereo in your car, when you turn it on, it's not generating the music. music. That music or that broadcast is coming from somewhere else. It's coming from a tower. It is merely a receiver. There's the possibility that you are merely a receiver of consciousness, and your job or something is to choose to, do you tune into it or do you ignore it? And the more that you tune into it, the better life goes. And you hear all these freaking crazy people like Will Smith and Jim Carrey, and they get too crazy with it, right? But they always talk about the same thing. When I started tuning in, I became successful. When I started tuning in, I started following things that made me happy, blah, 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 blah. And people who reach a level of success, even like Warren Buffett or I think Elon Musk was talking about that, like he's doing some project and they're saying, here's what all the research says, all the market research, we need to do this. And he went, no, we're going to do this. And they were like, why? He goes, because I just feel like that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
And then he invests in that and then it goes well. Because this is the hippie thing, or like the Eastern philosophy. All the answers are there, and then we're just kind of existing in this body, and we're either tapping into the answers or we're muddling it up by working too many hours and thinking that having a bigger television or a bigger car is important.
I do a lot of meditation and mindfulness stuff, and it's very like there's one particular app that I use by a guy called Sam Harris. I don't know if you know much about Sam Harris.
I've heard of him.
He's really good, but
he's an atheist, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, he's pretty staunch atheist. But he in a lot of it's kind of hard to explain, but in a lot of the meditations, like every second or third one, there'll be he'll try and get you to realize that you get you to try and turn your own attention back on itself. So let's say you're eyes closed, you're meditating and you're focusing on your breath, right? He'll then try and get you to focus on the attention itself, and to be like, where is that located? You think it's your brain, but how can you tell yourself that you're feeling your foot a meter and a half that way? Or is a good one is feel where your eyes are, right? You close your eyes, feel where your eyes are. Is consciousness behind your eyes? Is the back of your head in front of consciousness? And when you think about it like that and you do it long enough, you're like, well, not really. See, I just know that it's in my head for some reason. Yeah. But everything is just appearing, including the noticing of consciousness itself.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, I find the more I think about it, the less I understand. So it's just
there's a documentary series I've been watching on Netflix called The Mind Explained, right? And one of them they were talking about this kind of stuff, and the Buddhist monks were talking about anxiety and depression stuff, and one guy was suffering from panic attacks, and through his meditation he would let it happen, and he, instead of being scared of it, he's like, this is just a thing. And then through that somehow it really helped him. But one of the other episodes, which this is what I wanted to talk about as well, psychedelics. Right?
Yes, you did. He mentioned that he wanted to discuss this.
Separating consciousness from energy. I don't know. It's all wild stuff, and I love it. But here's my only thing. I've never actually taken LSD or shrooms, but I might be getting close because it's just fascinating. The thing is, and this is your what you were saying before as well. If you already have control over your life, you feel like you do, and your life is proceeding in a manner which you are comfortable with, and even if it's wrong, but you are comfortable with, I like how this is going. Why would you ever disrupt that by trying to do a mind-expanding thing when you're like, my life is fucking awesome? Because once you change your perception and you change your philosophy, your life will go in a different direction, which could be great. But if it's already great, who cares? It's when things don't make sense and it's all fucked up that I kind of see the purpose of, possibly using the psychedelics for mind expansion, because everybody who does, is what the researchers were saying, they all come out saying the same thing at the end. Man, whoa. It's all about love, man. They all say that, and this is,
that's something that people are told all the time, but I don't know.
I don't know.
It's obviously true, but it's you hear that so many paths lead to that same conclusion. Yeah, and it drives me crazy because my mother was born in 1950, so in 1968 she was 18 years old when the whole hippie revolution was huge. And she always says,
she'll like, I'll be having a conversation. She'll go, you know, it's all about love. And I'm like, just stop. Stop saying that shit. It's so stupid. But there's probably something to it.
No, it's true. It's just your outlook at the time is, I don't think we realize how much of our interpretation of the world is dependent on our state in that moment.
Say that again?
How much of our interpretation of the world and the events that happen is determined or hinges on your mental state at that exact moment.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I heard a really good thing was like, don't think about life when you're tired.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit.
Well, see,
when you're tired, when do you ever... Fucking shit sucks when you're tired. You're like, fuck, man, fuck, should have done this, got to this, do tomorrow. And when you're just awake and you're feeling good and you're in like the fucking alpha zone, whatever you call it, the, you know, alpha brain.
If you're in a suffering situation, I don't know how you change that, but the fact is, there's only cause and effect, right? So for whatever actions you have now, there's going to be outcomes, right? And I am under the impression that you get to control like 98% of your causes. But sometimes shit that'll happen to you, you don't have any control over. Your father dies or whatever. But as soon as that happens, in the next moment, you have the ability to change outcomes based on your interpretation of that. If you decide that that was God's will and what was meant to be, it will have different outcomes on your life than if you go, my life is destroyed, I hate everything, and now you will act differently and you'll have different outcomes.
There's a quote from, I think, yeah, go on.
I don't know how you can gain control over that point if you're out of control, but the fact of the matter, that rule of life doesn't change. Your interpretation of the event creates or diverts what those outcomes are going to be.
Meaning. It's the meaning you put to shit. The thing is, everything, whether we like it or not, is just neutral. Like even like the worst thing you could imagine, right? A child dying. There's places in the world where, I can't remember where it is, but just poor as shit countries, right? They have 6 kids. 3 of them are just going to die. And they are like not distraught about it. They're like, fair enough. Heaven is a better place. That's, you know, this place kind of sucks. The child has gone off to heaven. They're young. That's fine. And it's like, I think it's like from a Shakespeare poem or something, but it's like, or is it Oscar Wilde or something? But basically, things are neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. Yeah. And it's like, it's absolutely the meaning you put on shit.
Yeah. Another favorite one I have, I think it was Henry Ford, said, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're correct.
I love that. I fucking love that. That's so good. Yeah. I believe you can blow me right now.
I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
Psychedelics. Okay, back to that. I have this theory.
Sponsored by Big Psycho.
I have this theory, which I am quite convinced is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Back in the 70s, I don't like all the music from the 70s, but it was revolutionary music. I mean, anything, whether we're talking Led Zeppelin,
Clearwater Revival,
all this stuff starting to come up early 70s, just revolutionary music.
Yeah.
Then, by 1985, music was shit. As far as
some good music in the late 80s and 90s. Fucking Michael Jackson, man.
Wasn't revolutionary, right? Then you hit this peak back in 1992, where everything was unbelievable music, whether it be like Soundgarden, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana.
Bro, you're just talking about your specific taste now.
No, this is
all the bands I hate happened in the late 80s.
And then, since 2000, the music is not revolutionary.
I agree with that.
With the exception of maybe like Eminem and some black artists, the music is good, but it's not revolutionary.
There's a few things on this.
Now wait. In the late 60s to early 70s, acid use, LSD, reached its peak. By 1985, it had dropped off to its lowest point in 2 decades. Then it came back up very high in 92, 93, and since 2000, everybody just uses meth. So nobody takes acid anymore. And I reckon there's a correlation.
I think you might be onto something there.
I'm telling you.
Man, I love talking about music, man. I think there is some, because like the first level argument is, music's fucking shit now and it was fucking great when I was young, right? Mm-hmm. The level above that is, music's sort of subjective, you know? Some things are good, some things are bad. I reckon I'm at the next level where I'm like, no, I think there is some objectively shit music and there's, like, it's a bit of both, because I think that, I remember seeing somewhere, certainly chart music, right? Somewhere they compared of all the songs written in the 80s, all the top hits in the 80s versus all the hits past 2010. The range of sounds was like this. Now it's like this, right? Same drum machine sound, barely any guitar, the same
chords.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like, but it's like the sounds, not the notes, but the sounds. The amount of different sounds, the timbre, whatever you call it, is like this now. Back then, man, they'd have a fucking harp in a song. You'd have Bohemian Rhapsody. You'd have a fucking piano. You'd have a ukulele. You'd have all kinds of shit. Yeah. Now it's like this.
Yeah. Do you see anybody coming out lately that's like Bob Dylan or Queen?
No. But the thing is, I reckon they exist. They just don't get the airtime. Yeah, it's like we just have more of everything now.
The industry, I'm sure.
Yes.
If it's anything, yeah.
And I reckon a big part of it is financial. It's like they don't want to take a risk because they know what works.
They got stockholders.
Yes, exactly. Whereas back then it was like, let's give them the craziest, coolest music we can. Now it's like, well, we know this, it could probably fail, and we're going to lose tens of millions of dollars. This kind of sounds like everything else.
And unfortunately, if you are not... Okay, and now this is my bias towards comedy. I am not allowed to perform on television or in comedy clubs because what I'm saying is too irreverent. It's too... So that means I have to book all my own shows, which is great because I get all the money. But it's a lot more work, and you have to invest in yourself. If you want to perform your art in a fashion that is an expression of your philosophy. Whereas if you are doing it at the clubs, they say, well, you can't say that, you can't say this. And so then you start putting yourself into a box, and you train yourself to be into that box. And now you are expressing ideas that fit with a comedy club, but they are not a true reflection of you or true creativity. And you don't realize it because you cut off those corners. You didn't look for mind expansion. You put yourself into that box. I kind of worry if I ever take LSD or shrooms that the corners of the box that I already have will become so blurred I'll just be like...
You will be... I think if you take LSD, you're going to be insufferable to talk to if you take LSD.
If I use LSD, I'll become more of a preacher. I'll stop doing comedy and I'll be like, we need to fight the U.S. government! And then they'll mow me down.
You just get fucking AR-15s, my man.
That's right.
Okay, no, there's a lot going on here, and I'm glad that we're getting into the depth, but I want to give a bit of context so people understand who you are. I know who you are. These cunts have no idea. Jimmy, when did you begin doing comedy? It was around the same time I started.
I realized I was funny when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
No. When did I start comedy?
Yeah.
April 27th, 7.5 years ago.
You have the most autistic memory, I must say. I was drinking a Bud Light. So, okay, and what got you into it? Because you've told me the story, and it's really interesting.
Is it?
Yes.
I am not religious, but I said, God, tell me what to do. That's kind of true. So, I was 38 years old. My life was awesome. My life was awesome. Like I was like, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, when I'm like 60, I can retire and have a comfortable living till I'm 90. Like just have a, and I heard a speaker say something. And there's another saying that I know about. It's, you never know how far-reaching something you do, think, or say today has the ability to affect millions of lives tomorrow. So this guy, Eric Thomas, a black speaker.
I like him.
He said, your comfort has made you weak. And I went, motherfucker. Like he hit a nerve with me and philosophically, and I went, oh, he's right. Like I'm not growing. And if you're not growing, the only point of life, so people wonder, what is the purpose of life? The only purpose is growth. Because if you're not taking on challenges, you can't grow. And if I can't grow, I can't become my best. And if I can't become my best, I can't be truly happy. And if I can't be happy, what the hell's the point, right? So it's all about growth, growth, growth. Anyway, I realized this. And I went, oh, man. So then I'm like, okay, I'll look at getting into something that is a bit different and try to create this growth. I don't know if you want the short answer, but there is no short answer. So
we got time.
I looked around at a bunch of stuff, and I thought maybe, what if I started a construction company? That's something I've never done, because I was like, I want to do something I've never done that I know nothing about to create expansion. And I was thinking and trying to come up with answers and really getting into that prefrontal cortex to examine what I could do. And after 3 months of that, all it did was just make me angry. So I was out walking the dog at the park in the dark, and all of a sudden, I'm trying to think of what I went, you know what? I don't know what I want to do. And I was
yelling at God.
I was yelling out loud. I don't know who I was yelling at. Again,
dog.
I don't really believe in God per se. I'm just going, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And then I went, you're so fucking smart. You fucking tell me what to do. Again, I don't know who the hell I'm talking to. And that was it. I got it out of my system, right? I yelled and screamed, got it out of my system. The lady walking across the park was walking the other way. No. I'm sure if anybody would have thought I was a meth head. And so I got out of my system, and I just felt pure relief. I was just like, I felt so good. And I was like, good, I'm done thinking about that. I will never think about it again. And about a week later, I'm in the shower, and I can feel, right now, it's so weird, because I'm not a fucking hippie, but I got this tingling or something. I don't know if it was a feeling, if it was auditory, just overwhelming feeling throughout my whole body. You got to do comedy.
Your eyes are watering, right?
I started laughing in the shower. I actually said, nah, guess again, cunt. That's what I said.
To the higher being that you're speaking to.
I was like, what a bunch of bullshit, right?
Address him like a mate at the pub.
Yeah. So then I just blocked it out. It disappeared again. And I was like, good, right? Now I can get on with my life. And 2 weeks later, I'm in the shower. Again, I get the same thing. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know anything about... I never had an interest in comedy. This wasn't something where I was like, I've always wanted to do comedy. I looked down upon the arts. Like, if you're an artist...
I looked down upon the arts.
A comedian, somebody who's painting... Here's what I thought. Get a real fucking job. Okay, because that's what my old man used to say. So, never entered my mind until that moment, right? So then, the second time in the shower, I get this again, and I went, I'm just going to keep hearing this, aren't I? And I got a crystal clear feeling of yes. And I went, for fuck's sake. And so then, I had to philosophically examine whether that just happened, right? Now, here's the thing. The worst regret, in my opinion, that I could have in my entire life is to be on my deathbed at 55 years old, at 87 years old, and be on my deathbed with the regret of knowing that I never did something that I felt I was supposed to do, right? Because I was scared, or because I was just like, no, I can't do it. So I went, well, I can't die with the regret. So then I went, well, okay, if this was a real thing, I should do it. But what if it was just a hallucination? It's just a schizophrenic type of a hallucination. And I'm on my deathbed at 87, and I know it was a schizophrenic thing or an imaginary thing. How would I feel? And I went, I'll still have the regret of knowing that I never did it, even if it was totally imaginary. So then at that point from there on, I was like, I have to commit to this. So I'm all in. That's it. From that point, I just went, I'm all in, because life has no fucking meaning other than growth. So if this is a path for growth, and life really doesn't have meaning that we know of. If it does, I'll never know what that was. So if somebody tells you, here's the meaning of life, get fucked. Because they can't possibly know.
No, of course.
Right? So all you can know is what you know, and all that I know is I had that experience. So fuck it. I'm going with it.
Dude, I fucking love that story, man. I find that so amazing.
I don't like the story at all. Because it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't have to, man.
No.
It doesn't have to. I really think...
But I'm that logical type of a person. So it was a real step outside of my comfort zone to go, fine, fuck it. That's really my attitude now. Fine, fuck it. So this is... Sorry, I'll cut you off.
No, that's fine. So you're doing my job. This is great.
In comedy, in the scene, you've got all these people who are held back by their fears, right? So I come on the scene as a person who knows what I want, and I'm just going to do it. And it is not well accepted right? So there was that many people that I butted heads against, and because I'm in this different zone, it's not like, yeah, I think we're gonna have fun with comedy. Like people would bring up things, and I'd be like, no, you're wrong. Like, because I know what I know. So I'm like a freight train going down train tracks, and people are stepping out in front of me, and I'm like, you should move, or you're gonna get crushed. And I remember there was a guy, Jez, who said to me, he goes, everybody's against you, it doesn't affect you at all. And I said, no, that's because I have a mission statement. Because I wrote down, here's what I know, and now I have to follow it. So when you have this destination that you know you're going for, anything that attacks you just ricochets off. You can't, because you have to do this. Now, if you just are doing this because you're like, this is what I want to do, it would be difficult. When you think that God spoke to you, Jesus came down from the clouds and told me, then you're like, I just have to do it. So as much as like when people say, my life was changed, I went from being an alcoholic to doing all these things because Jesus spoke to me. I'm like, you are a fucking idiot, right? But then, how hypocritical, that's the experience I had. So now, not that it was Jesus, but now I am supposed to be doing this thing. And I still have this now, where I'm like, I'm not even doing comedy right now, I'm busy doing renovations. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, am I supposed to keep doing comedy? And then either I'll get a whisper, or I just kind of know, I go, yeah, you just have to keep doing it. It's not something I want to do. It's not even something I enjoy. It is what I am supposed to do. That's it.
No, that's fucking wicked. There's something to be said for however that realization comes about. Yours obviously came about in a pretty dramatic way, but the realization of there's something I need to do and I'm just going to do it. And it's like discipline is what carries that along. Like, it's not even motivation. It's just like, no, I need to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to wake up whatever time I need to do this. I need to do this.
And Nike's motto isn't
just do it.
Just think about it.
Yeah.
You should create a plan.
yeah.
Nike.
Ask your parents. Ask your friends.
Just do it. But I don't have enough money. Just do it. But I don't know anything about comedy. Just do it.
Bro, that's been my philosophy for so long, because that's you like, and going back to before. Going back to like what we were saying about thought and consciousness and stuff, there's so little value in.
Are your podcasts supposed to be funny? Because this is not funny.
No, this is good, man. Don't worry. We'll fucking funny shit will happen. Don't worry. But there's thinking your way through things and trying to navigate through the world via thought, right? And then there's sort of just. Not to say like intuition, but not to be like I feel my way through life, but do you know what I mean? There comes this like, I can't explain it. I just know this is A, what I need to do, B, that I'm going to do this and it's going to work out.
You live your life by one of two belief systems. Either I can figure this all out, consciousness is generated in my brain and I'll get it sorted, or I am merely a receiver of consciousness. And I'm going to follow that, right? Now we mix it, right? But now, 8 years ago, or 9 years ago when I first started to come into this situation, because I didn't do comedy straight away. It took me a year to build myself up I had to watch motivational videos and all stuff to convince myself that I was worthy of doing this. Like, why would anybody want to hear what I got to say?
Have you seen the people in the comedy scene? Believe me, you would. You're right. You're fine. You're
fine.
Like,
oh my God, I know how to tie my own shoes. I'll be fine. So you're living your life one of those two ways. My life was awesome when I was all about consciously figuring out how to direct my life. Since I have decided and gone all in on this idea of I merely need to follow, I need to submit, I need to surrender to being in tune with this and to following what I can hear beckoning me. Since I started doing that, my life is unbelievable. You can't explain to somebody the difference. All I can tell you is I look back on my life before when I thought it was awesome. It was shit. I mean, it was going well, but it did not have meaning. Now, it doesn't matter if it has meaning. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
I think single-minded purpose and struggle gives you meaning. Mm-hmm. I think if it's like I need to do this one thing, but it's easy, there's fucking no value in that whatsoever. If you're just struggling for the sake of struggling, that's fucking
it's
useless
the yin
as well.
and yang thing, isn't
It fucking is, man. It's legit those two things. Like I have a single thing that I want for whatever reason, and I'm starting to think it's not even worth getting into the reasons why you want it. I think it's just you just do it, man.
Yeah.
And then you struggle your way through it, man.
You just do it, and everybody tells you, no, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And you just go, yeah, I know.
I enjoy when people say that kind of thing. No one ever does, though.
I'm at the point now where, like, when people say, you shouldn't do that, or why would you do that? I just go, okay.
Yeah.
I can't explain this thing to you.
That's fucking great, man. I love that.
You just gotta do it.
I think.
But see, now getting to that point is a whole different story. How do you get to the point where you have enough self-trust that you can hear this or feel this and go, yeah, I know I'm not insane. This is an insane situation, but I trust in myself and in my ability. How do you get to that point? And the answer is you need to develop these 12 skills. Now, some of those skills are two of them are very straightforward. Reading and maths. You need to be proficient at those in order to say, I can trust myself to do something. Because you can go, well, I don't know how to weld. I don't know how to weld.
Whoa, hold on. Let's unpack this.
I don't know
what the fuck does maths have to do with it?
Okay. I don't know, but this is what the researchers say. But I know if it comes to welding, I don't know how to weld. Okay?
Yeah.
But I can watch a video or read a book, and I can do calculations, and I can cut the stuff right. I can weld. I trust that I can do that. I'm going to be shit at it at first. I can only get better. But the other things that they talk about is self-guidance, work ethic, self-reliance. And there's like these 12 things.
Yeah.
And you build these over time. Now, where you're supposed to get them from is your parents. And where you get them from your parents is in 45 million words. So from the time here we go. There's a book called.
This is great. I'm loving this, man.
There's a book. I believe that this is the cornerstone of all success.
Yeah.
There's a book called 30 Million Words, and it's a book about from the time that you're 0 till 6 years old, you are absorbing words.
Yeah.
If you get 45 million words, you're going to build those 12 skills, and you're going to then be successful. And when I say successful, what I mean is success is merely, I have a task, I complete the task. Success. That's it. So being successful in life means that you lined up a whole bunch of tasks and you completed all these projects. So it's just a project completed. All right, but your ability to do that and to see that through is dependent on having these skills, which is dependent on the fact that when you were young, your parents talk, and read to you, right? Parents who read books to their children every night from 0 to 6, and also tend to be, if mom and dad are both in the home, especially if only one parent works, or they only have to work like 25 hours each, the parents are around to talk to you. And it's words that you're getting that are encouragement, like, you should consider this, Jimmy, and what about if you, right? Whereas if mom is a single parent, or dad, and has to work 3 jobs, but has 4 kids, the interactions are, go to bed, brush your teeth, right? They're getting 15 million words on average. So it's a 30 million word gap. Now, it's not always correct, but they're saying generally, those people who get the 30 million extra words naturally build those skill sets. Then, if you don't build those, your ability to complete tasks is limited. So if you can't complete tasks, you fail. You become negative, you can't get anywhere, and you just...
That would then be a sort of snowball effect. You'd exponentially go up or you exponentially go down.
The other place that you can really get those 12 skills is team sport.
Really?
You get a lot of them through team sport.
There is a lot of value to team sport. That's one of those things that, like, I never appreciated until recently.
Another one, leadership. Another one of the skills, debating skills.
I want to do that as well. Yeah.
But
I like to do it with a lot of people, or mass debate, so to speak. We can practice now. I've got to chuck jokes in there so that, you know, people who aren't keeping up at
What
least.
you'll do is you'll cut the film, we'll go jack each other off, we'll come back like nothing ever happens. Just sweaty armpits.
I've already got sweaty armpits just listening to this shit. Fuck, there's so much to unpack here, man. Okay.
So there's the problem is... Okay, this is a bit dramatic, and I've said this before on somebody else's podcast. My personal greatest white male privilege is the fact that my father worked full time and my mother didn't need to work. Having interactions with my father who taught me leadership, taught me how to be a man, but also having a mother who just 45 million words. Right? And if you're the eldest child, like you're not, so there's your problem.
I'm the younger one.
Adam, your parents would have talked more to him than they talked to you.
Why
so
is that?
Eldest children, because when you've got one child, you have all the time in the world to get.
Yes.
By the time the third kid comes along, you're like, I don't have time to talk to you. Go talk to your brother, he'll tell you how to tie your shoes.
I think that's right. I think I did get spoken to less than my brother. I think as a kid I was probably jealous. As kids,
And that's why
siblings always that kind of
thing. Why he's a better person and stuff.
Yeah, why he's doing better, he's got more money. I get it. Yeah.
There is a correlation.
Man, that explains
And only
so
children
much.
as well.
What? Wouldn't they be...
Only children.
Yeah.
Or like the first child, only better.
But is there not a tendency, and this could be totally colloquial, where it's like only kids tend to be more spoiled and just do not as well in life? Or is that just colloquial?
They tend to be more spoiled for sure, I would say.
But that doesn't necessarily affect their 12 steps to, or the 12
I
fucking...
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember reading about that. But what is... here's what you see. Like you see, okay, if money just fixed everything, then if you're a movie star,
it obviously
your kids would be golden. Except that they're all suicidal. And they all accomplish nothing. Like the children of movie stars
No
never
struggle,
accomplish
man.
anything.
There's no fucking struggle.
And also like billionaires, their kids generally don't accomplish very much.
No.
And the big thing is, if you're a billionaire, you're working 100 hours a week, and you have a certain philosophy on life on how to get that done, who's teaching your kid how to get it done? Not you,
The
because you're working
fucking,
100
the
hours a
maid,
week.
man. The maid.
That's right.
Yeah.
So your trajectory in life, good or bad, is directly dependent and inseparable from one thing, your philosophy. If you have a philosophy that money is evil, then you won't want money because you want to get into heaven, right? If you don't believe that...
Do people actually believe that?
Yeah. I know somebody in America had a chance at 50 years old to become the manager of this thing and increase income 50%. Turn down the job because a rich man won't get into heaven. And I know that how I'm going now, I got a chance. I was like, fucking what?
Really?
I mean, what about the fact that if you made 50% more, then you, if you really wanted to, you could take that and just donate it all to charity.
Yeah.
Or you could donate your time now to charity. But they don't think like that. Rich man won't get into heaven, which it doesn't even
Yeah, but
say
are you sure that? See, I feel like a lot of
I
this.
want to be clear on something. The scripture does not say a rich man will not get into heaven.
Where do people get that from?
It's a misinterpretation.
Well, I think, maybe it's a misinterpretation. I think also people tend to act, generally, you behave, a lot of your behavior is trying to seek pleasure and trying to minimize pain, right? So, and a big pain is fear. I think a lot of people just try and avoid fear, the fear of taking on that task, or the fear of being rich and being, there's a lot of fear going on in people's minds, and then they justify it with something like, well, look, rich people don't go to heaven anyway.
Yeah.
I reckon that's what's happened with him.
Absolutely.
It's just, we justify it by whatever means we can.
Yeah, because you don't want to step out of your comfort zone because
he would have needed to change. Yeah, he would have needed to change. And also, people are scared of money for reasons like that. On a
side note, real quick, like animals are either pain or pleasure. And I heard this one time: humans can endure tons of pain for a later pleasure if they have a purpose. I thought that was pretty good.
That summarizes my life, Jimmy. That's just the sheer pain of sitting down with you right now in the hopes that one day I get a million views.
The whole thing is, Tom Segura, right? Oh, he is so funny. But also, there's a couple of spots in his special Ball Hog where he stops and he says some very philosophical things, and it's so accurate. And that is one of the things that he's talking about is. When it comes to pain and pleasure. I can't remember now. My brain just blinked.
No, that's fine.
Hold on. Give me a second. So
I want to change topics pretty
No,
soon,
wait.
so make sure you get this out. Pain, pleasure.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You fuck.
Watch the special and you'll just see it. But basically the thing is, would you rather go through all this pain and not necessarily have success, but you just, as long as you realize that your dreams won't turn out as quickly as you expected, right? And you can accept that it might not go exactly where you expected, you'd rather live a life where you get to do the thing that you want to do. Who cares if you have less money? You're doing what feels so good and makes your life worth living.
Bro,
That's
this is
more important than the money.
Absolutely, man. I can't remember who said it, but they were like, man, there's worse. No, there was like a Bill Burr podcast where it was talking about people chasing their dreams. He's like, man, there is things a lot worse than being 30 and still sleeping on a futon or whatever he said. It's like, and that's kind of the situation I see myself in. It's like, man, I'm going after this, making fuck all money, right? I work just enough to be able to pay bills. And I've done this all of my 20s, right? But it's like, whether that has an enormous payoff or not, it's not a case of like, if I was just chasing money and I found that the fucking paperclip industry, there's a lot of money in it, right? So I spent my entire 20s doing something I don't really give a shit about because of the eventual payoff. That would lead to then it would be very, very dependent. It would the success of my life would be very dependent on whether I actually make the money or not.
Yeah.
Now, it's like, I love doing this more than anything else, and I want success in the future, right? If that doesn't come, I've still spent my entire 20s doing what I love doing. Because, like you said earlier, what has motivated me my entire life was that same thought of, I don't want to be old and on my deathbed being like, fuck, never did comedy.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
And it's like, if you've even got... Like, I consider myself good at what I do, right? You might think differently. But, like, there's people who are nowhere near, who are fucking shitter than you and I, who are doing this and doing incredibly well, right? And the only difference there is, I really think, self-belief. I think it's like, they were like, this is what I do. And people would be like, dude, you're shit, you're not funny. That doesn't matter, I'm gonna do it. And it's like, could I live with myself if I am good at this thing? And there is some fuckhead doing so much better than me, and because he chased his dream because he was confident and I wasn't. And I was like, I cannot live that life.
Having said this, you see some of the people in the comedy scene, they're 8 years in and you're like, you need to quit soon. You need to find a different passion.
Okay, let's talk about comedy.
Terrible.
Let's talk about comedy. Okay, now, this is what I want to talk about. You had a very interesting path through the stand-up world. You and I started at a very similar time.
Yeah, but
okay?
then you're,
I'm still your elder because it was a month earlier than you that I started.
What was that word? You're a quitter.
Look, I did quit stand-up, right? Because I understand where my strengths are and where they're not. Okay? And I enjoy... Being funny, not my thing. No, thank you.
So in the future, then, once you really understand your strengths, you're just going to be in back alleys blowing homeless people.
Yes.
The homeless happen?
Just a fucking golf ball through a hose, you know? That's just...
You know, there's people where their job as carers, that they care for people who are amputees.
Yeah. I don't think that's true. I know exactly. There's no way.
Somebody's got to jack the guy off who's got no hands.
The fucking prosy, man. I reckon prosies get this. You can't... How can you jack a fucking dude off? Firstly, how can you jack a dude off? Secondly, how can you do that?
Because you've got that level
and then give them lunch afterwards. And then fucking... And then wipe their ass. No, man.
How can you have that level of empathy?
You're like
how good of a person are you that you can go, you know what, Tom? Absolutely. I understand how much pain you must... Let me jack you off. And it's not gay. This is a professional service.
Oh, so in your mind, this is a male carer. Interesting. Right, no, just leave it at that. I reckon no one does that. I think that they pay a prostitute.
A real job.
I would love to interview a prostitute. I'm going to bring a prostitute onto this. And I reckon they get asked to jack off amputees all the time.
That I went to uni with who was on a documentary because he had an attraction sexually to amputees. He actually married an amputee. Right? So there are people who would be like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. Let me get into some of this.
There's an niche industry. Fuck you, yeah. God damn. I've totally
Let's
lost.
Move along.
Okay, back to comedy. Jimmy, you had a very tumultuous... Okay, I need you to not mention names, obviously. but I'm curious about your thoughts on the comedy scene.
I don't have a boyfriend or a car.
What?
Said not to mention names. That's her joke.
Ah.
Boyfriend.
Funnily enough, I don't know who you're talking about. Thank God.
Yes, you do.
Don't even. No, I don't even want to know who you're talking about. Right?
Yes, you do.
Probably. Whatever. Okay. Now, Jimmy.
Laser tag.
Jimmy. Jimmy. All right. Now, this motherfucker. I'm gonna tape your mouth shut until I finish questions, and then rip the tape off again. Pull this fucking terrorist beard you've got going here. You had an interesting path through comedy. You alluded to it quickly earlier.
Pro-Muslim beard.
Yes. Okay? Inshallah, brother. I'm gonna fucking blow this couch up with both of us if you don't stop. Now, tell us about you entered... So, you came into it being like, cool, let's get the lay of the land. What's happening in comedy? Most people, the general path through stand-up is you get there... You try some shit, you don't know what's going on, you freak out, you learn the hierarchy of it, you realize that, okay, I'm trying some new shit. Eventually you get a little bit of good content, good material, and then you're like, well, now I need to suck up to the right people to get a paid 5-minute gig. And then you get the 5-minute gig and you got to suck up a little bit more and meet and network, and then maybe I'll get a 10-minute gig. And then you do this and you just suck dicks for about 8 to 10 years until you're headlining and emceeing.
Are we still talking about comedy?
Yeah, sorry, I've just drifted off into another world. No, but like that's kind of how it works, is that there's a lot of, as there is in a lot of industries, right? There's a lot of just like, I need to impress the right people, I need to earn my stripes, a lot of that kind of stuff. You didn't really do that. Okay. At a certain point, explain to me when you deviated from the standard comedian path.
First of all, again, I think it's based on a philosophy that I already had. Jim Rohn, that guy, one of his sayings.
He was Tony Robbins' influence.
Yeah. And also Joe White's influence.
Really?
Yeah, Joe White loves him. So
I like Joe White. Big shout out to Joe White if you're watching.
What Jim Rohn said was, if you don't create your own life path, right, your own dream, your own business, somebody else will put you into their plan. And you know what they got planned for you? Not much. Right? So if you don't build your own business, somebody will hire you to build theirs. They got fuck all planned for you. So you're either self-employed, doing your thing, or you're dependent on the industry. I'm not interested in being somebody's slave, in saying the things they want me to say. I can't brown nose because I am an alpha male. I can't.
I was going to say, just quickly, a lot of this comes, I reckon, there needs to be a study. People who think like this, and I'm going to be perfectly blunt here, overwhelmingly men. I've spoken to very few women with the same mindset, and that's fine. We're genetically different. I get it. But there's so many men who are like, I am going to be my own boss. I don't want to fucking listen to any cunt. No man tells me what to do. I reckon there's
daughter.
Hey?
My daughter.
She's the true boss of the house.
She is the man. She just, she's feminine, but she's just like, nah. I'm doing it. This is.
Oh, of course. There's no, and there is definitely exceptions. I'm saying that in my interactions, I've found that there's a lot more men who are just like, no, like I'm doing it my way. This is how it's going to be. I don't care if I need to struggle for this long. Maybe that makes women smarter. I don't know. They prefer a bit of balance. They're like, look, whatever. I'm
pros and cons.
They're probably happier. It doesn't matter. But I reckon there's also a level of like, there's an actual measurable testosterone level, I think, here. Because you don't hear this from your fucking pencil neck soy dudes. Every dude that I've spoken to on this same subject tend to be big, gruff men. And funnily enough, the science, they've done like studies on rats, right? And they've realized that what testosterone does is, the misconception is that it makes you aggressive. It doesn't do that. What testosterone does...
Dominant.
Yes, it makes you want to, no, literally, like, it's like, it doesn't make you angry, it makes you want to win hierarchies. It makes you want to climb to the top, right? Sometimes aggression is the tool, but that's not the driving, it's not like you have more testosterone, you're angry, it's like, you just want to be top of the hierarchy, because as humans, that's fucking important to us.
And you know
especially
what?
Men,
and
it's status.
It's probably why I don't argue with people anymore. I don't argue with my missus. Just go, okay.
That is a high tea, man, right there.
Okay, I'm 47. I got limited time left. Sounds good.
Well, you pick your battles, right?
Yeah, pick your battles.
Yes. Okay. So then go on. How did you deviate from the standard route?
Well, so right away, the thing that I did do differently, which everybody told me was wrong, you got to come up with your 5 minutes. For the first 8 months, all I did was I would get on stage and I would test 10 new jokes. And then the next time, 8 new jokes, and I would kind of redo 2 of them. And then I would like put those aside. And so after like 8 months, or even like up to, well, about 8 months, I only just had a collection of a bunch of stuff that was individual thoughts about, one would be about men and women, one would be about sport, one would be about dogs, one would be about race stuff, totally not related. And then I put it into a 5 minutes and went okay. You know, I did clean stuff because you got to do that for like raw and everything. And then after that, during the next year, again, I went back into this thing where I don't care if I have a sensible 5 minutes. I was just like, my idea was to create as many 2 to 3 line jokes as I could. Because I kind of figured eventually, if you get up there and you've got 50 of those, you just say them all in any order, and if it's funny, it doesn't matter if it's part of a storyline, it's funny, the next one is funny, the next one is funny. So now this is all I do. Like I've got to do an hour and a half, and it's just, here's a thought, and but then I've got groupings of, I've got like these 10 jokes about what it's like for me to be black in America, or whatever, right? Or 10,
lived experience.
10 things about my experiences with animals and farming, right? Which already sounds sexual as soon as I say it.
With your accent, every animal joke is a sexual
joke.
joke.
Then they just end up in these groupings. So then once you got enough of them, and I kind of could see, they'd all come together. And that's what's happened. So I did it right as far as I'm concerned. But what I was told when I started was, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. How many times can people tell you you're doing it wrong before you go, fuck you? So that's pretty much what happened.
I loved your...
So I wrote a big email to the one woman who told me, because she was belittling me, like treating me like I was a 19-year-old. I'm like, bitch, I am 40 years old. I run my own business. I don't need your approval. And what you're saying doesn't make any sense. And you're bullying all these people. How about you get stuffed? Right? And so she was the head of the entire community. And so then after that, couldn't get a gig. So then what I did was, what do you do if you can't get a gig? You quit. That's what everybody does, because they're And what I did was...
Let me just remember the exact point at which you say that word so I know to delete it. 115. 115.
So then what I did was, I opened my own room. Now at that time in Perth, there were 3 amateur open nights per week. I opened 4. Right? So I was getting more gigs than anybody, which means that I was getting exponentially better compared to what I could have been.
Yeah.
Not compared to other people, compared to where I would have been. So, and then Jiggy, and we did that together. Like, he helped me with a lot of stuff. So we ran those, and then I ran semi-pro rooms, and then I started running a semi-pro show. And then moved on and on and on and on. So I have control over my destiny. I'm not dependent on whether or not some person who runs a club is like, I like you and I think we should try to get you money. Instead...
Because that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
There's comedians who are really good, but they might not be liked and they don't get spots. Like, it's so political.
Or they're hilarious and they're the top of the scene in Perth. So if you're the top of the scene in Perth, out of that, at the pro club, you can maybe get on 20 times a year. They might, if they're actually paying you, they might pay you $400 each time to do your half hour. And so you're making $8,000, maybe $12,000 a year. And then let's say you're doing other gigs for other little places, $200 here and $150 there. The most you could make is like $30,000 in Perth if you were like crazy working at it. The only way to do it is you gotta run your own show. So then people start doing like fringe festivals and stuff and they'll get money out of that. But I figure instead, why don't I just book my show here and book it there and book it there and book it there and do every Friday and Saturday. And then you can actually have an income that you could live off of. But in order to do that, you need to be self-employed, you need to be self-motivated, you need to be your own marketing, you need to do your videos. So you can't just be a comedian, you have to be this well-rounded.
Well, that's why it's good as well doing that, because you build skills that are above and beyond just being funny on stage.
And once you have control over the business, who can cancel me?
Yeah, literally not.
It's not like I'm on television. There's no stockholders for the company that I'm performing. It's me showing up at different pubs. And if I'm in small towns in Iowa and people are like, you said a transgender joke and we're going to come protest. I'm like, drive out to Waverly, Iowa. Drive 6 hours.
They're going to come after you with
Chicago.
torches and pitchforks.
Two of you people, with your thing saying, I don't...
It's a pitchfork with 3 dildos on the end as well. That's what they're coming after you with.
Like... So as long as, and the thing is I think, and I'm not sure on this completely yet, I'm about to test this on my tour of America, is if you're your own person and you're just doing your own shows and they have 90 people at them, you can make a great living. If you're doing Fridays and Saturdays, you can make a great living and never be famous. You don't need to be famous to make a living out of comedy. And then there's people who are famous and hardly make a living out of comedy in Australia.
There's... Alright. How much...
T.J. Miller, you know him?
No.
Right, so he's a comedian, been doing it for like 15 years, and it was really funny. And I checked people's kind of net worth to see, like, how does this comedy business thing work? And his was like, after like 20 years, his net worth, which doesn't change who he is as a person, was like $700,000. I checked it recently because he's been in Marvel movies. He's been in Daredevil. He's the sidekick in Daredevil.
Yeah.
And now it's like $15 million.
God damn.
There's no money in comedy working for other people.
Correct. I think a lot of that path in comedy is down to the psychology of the people who do comedians, right? There is a lot of, as we know, there's heaps of mental illness in comedy. That's like a big thing. Like, bigger than the music industry.
People go, well, it's everywhere.
Not in the same quantity.
No, it's not.
No way, man. No. Because, comedians, like, it's a... I think firstly, there's like a small contingent of comedians, probably not that many, who are like dealing with some kind of trauma by being funny and getting it out of their system. I think there is a huge number of people...
Most of them are dealing with their trauma by being... unfunny on stage.
Yes, that's the majority. Okay, there's the first level. Then there's those dealing with trauma being funny on stage. But there's a lot of people who have been bullied, who would just have like an inferiority complex or a superiority complex. There's a lot of people who just didn't get attention, and it's like they do comedy as a need to please others. As a need to please a crowd of people, right? And I'm not totally exempt from this myself, okay? I was a little attention-seeking kid. There's obviously part of that going on as well. But in that, there is like, I need to please the bookers. I need to do this. I want to be loved. I want to be accepted. I want to do what the path is telling me to do. And you more prone to sucking your way up.
Yeah, and look, and it's just like religion, right? If you're in religion and you're a Mormon, right, and you start to say, well, I don't think that our third book is actually real, you will be eliminated you'll be excommunicated. You are not allowed to be with those people anymore. And what's the most important thing to us is our tribe, as people say. The people that we love, the people that we're with. So you're with these people with comedy, you're with them constantly, you're seeking their approval, you have their approval. Why would you step out of line and go, no, I want to do it my way? No.
Well, and I'm
all
thinking,
your friends are in your ear going, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. It's the culture of it.
Do the meth. We're all doing meth. And you're like, okay.
Well, you did that mantra gig as well? It's not, exactly. And like, you are your 5 closest people. You've heard that, I'm sure. You are the sum of the 5 people you're closest to. And if you're in that scene, that just trickles down, right? You're around constant mental illness. You're around a lot of just pettiness. You're around a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of negative shit going on, and that's just how it is, unfortunately. It's just that's the kind of people that it attracts, and I get that.
Like somebody who was like, you can't blame victims or whatever. Like they'd be like the devil's advocate to this thought is Adrian. No, that's not how it works. It's not like mental illness is contagious, but.
Absolutely it is.
Well, maybe.
Not contagious per se, but it's like, dude, you hang around a cunt who's negative all the time.
Your philosophy is contagious. So if you have a great philosophy and you have depression, you're a different person than if you have a very victimized philosophy and you have depression. And now, if you're that positive, you have a certain philosophy, but you're around that community of comedians for long enough, your philosophy changes. If you hang around with the trash, you start to smell like the trash.
That is
not that relates directly to people who have depression, but it's just a saying in general.
Yeah,
the
fucking
people you hang around with, start to become.
That is a really good way of putting it. You can't catch the mental illness, you catch the philosophy, and unfortunately, philosophies follow your mental state. If you are constantly upset, and actually, which one leads to which is a good question as well. They're correlated. The causation, who knows which direction that goes in.
Let me interrupt. I know you.
Geez, you've never done that. I wouldn't know. You're like when Joe Rogan had Alex Jones on. This is the Perth Alex Jones.
I think about, you know what, Alex Jones, he got a bunch of criticism for saying they're turning the frogs gay in Florida.
They are turning the frogs gay.
He was correct on
that.
That was based on research.
I remember you saying that.
But everybody poo-pooed him. So the whole thing about philosophy is this. People have this idea that if I have something really nice, like, say, BMW M Series.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then that will make me do things that make me be happy. It never works like that. The process of how it works is be, do, have. What you be philosophically, right? How you think, what you be determines your actions. What you do, which creates that fork in the road, and that creates your outcomes. Be, do, have.
Be, do, have.
Right?
Well, I do be having a bad time right now, am I right? No, sorry.
So that was applicable to the community. But anyways, continue. Next question.
Yeah. No, that's good. Fuck, okay, what did I want to go
Do you have some notes or some shit?
I don't want to look at them.
Wow.
I prefer just talking like this. This is way better.
Okay, well then let me say something.
No, you've said enough. Let me say something. There is a lot of that, and it's good that you just decided you came into it a well-rounded person. And I think that's the thing.
That was the problem.
Legit.
That was the problem.
You came into it a well-rounded person. I know who I am. I fucking know how big my dick is. I know what I'm all about. I know my direction. I know my goal, right? And you were in, and things hit you and bounced off. And you just kept like a train. You know? Things will hit it. It'll keep going down the track. A lot of cunts are in there because they're lacking something. And I get that, where they're like, I'm lacking attention, I'm lacking respect, I got bullied at school and I feel like no one listens to me. And they let the scene mold them. And then they become whatever the sum of the people around them is, or they fall into this and they become petty. And we saw this a lot with people who were so obviously bullied, right? They come in at a low level, they get shit, they work their way up till their booking rooms or their fucking, the big dick on the scene, and then they can start throwing shit down. And I did not respect those. I found those the least respect-worthy people, right? Who were like, obviously had copped shit their entire lives. They get to the top and they start giving it. And I never got it myself, but I could see them giving it to other people who are like open micers, and nothing pissed me off more, man. That really upset me, seeing them give shit to people who are new, because they're like, look, I've earned a bit of power now.
Where I ran into trouble with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me put this a bit closer here.
It's because I'm American. That's where I ran into problems. Because, first of all, and my father, super confrontational. Ding, right? And it was all about word games and arguments, and that's how you figured out your pecking order. Okay. So, in America, we have this unspoken rule that if I have the ability to do something that other people don't have the ability to do to make a situation better, then I have the duty to do it. So when I saw people getting belittled and bullied, I now have a duty to sacrifice myself. This is our thinking, right? This is why we're the world police and we fuck everything up. Okay?
You seen Team America?
And again, yes. And so my experience in comedy was exactly that. Going into Iraq and fucking everything up and making it worse. But I came out stronger. You
came out with the oil reserves, that's what it was.
Yes, I came out wealthy. And I recognize this going into it. And also from running my own business, you have confrontation with people and they want to argue. And then you got to make a choice. You be a chameleon, right? I want my money back, blah, blah. And I would just go, okay. And then, because they're all ready to be confrontational. Or when people are super confrontational, and you just look at them and go, okay, and they don't know what to do, right? Or there's a problem, and I talked to my daughter about this. Some people, like, you try to be nice, be kind always. I really do believe in that, except the always part. Some people only speak, like, people speak different languages.
Yeah.
Some people only speak the language cunt. And they're so broken that if you try to be nice, they misinterpret it. Like, I got on the scene, I'm shaking everybody's hand, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. They thought I was being underhanded. They thought that I was trying to brown nose. No, I'm just a nice guy who's confident, right? So, we run into this situation where I've had to say to myself, all right, these people are not going to come around to being nice, so I need to speak their language. And what they're going to find out is I speak cunt far more fluently than you do. And I'm going to destroy you if you get in my way. That's what I had to do. I had to actually and I hated it. I had discussions with myself philosophically about, you shouldn't do this. This is an evil thing. But if I want to do what I need to do, then I need to be able to get through this community unaffected. Right? So I'm going to need to become a different person. And I'm going to need to fight, so that I can not allow those people to stunt my growth. And then, what people in the scene they'd hear that I was just the worst person ever. And then they'd meet me and they would go, you're actually like a really nice guy. And I'm like, yeah. Because I treat them differently. If you come to me and you're nice, if you come to my door with roses, I'll give you roses. I'll give you a vase, right? If you come to my door with a sword, I'm going to get my axe. We're going to fight, right? So if you're approaching me, then I'm mimicking who you are. So these people who found me to be a terrible person, I was mimicking you. I was a chameleon. And I don't like doing that. And now you get to a certain point in comedy where you're above the amateur scene. Not above, but you've worked hard enough that you're a different thing. You don't need to do that anymore. Because if you walk into the room and they're there, they know. You don't need to. They already know they lost.
Or they've also got no sway over you now because you do your own thing.
That's right.
Fucking good shit.
So yeah, I didn't
make
like
sure this
having to do it, but
I'm gonna get a water as well.
Just a necessity.
2 seconds. There we go. That's all good. Fuck, we're going an hour and a half. Another one? No, you're good.
Thank you.
No, that's fine.
I do need another coffee. Because the one you got me was what was that? A tiny? Is that what?
Yeah, that's what you asked for. Baby Grande.
Medium. What's the small one called? And then you got baby.
Just fucking small, man.
You got me baby.
Yeah. Now, battery low, powering off. Oh.
Charge
okay.
it up.
Yeah, no, I've got a battery. I've got a
all right.
separate battery.
Whew.
This is good. Jimmy, you can entertain people for a while then.
I got nothing to say. Let me tell you about Jesus.
Show me dick, don't laugh, don't worry.
You're such a joke.
Hey.
I have nothing to say. Which is hilarious.
For a change.
Since I can't stop talking. See, I'd like to evolve on stage. Like right now, this is what we'll talk about for a second.
I mean, the mic's on. You can talk all you want.
Well, okay. But I like having you here with me.
You like having
so we can see the oohs and ahs on your face.
I'll ooze on
now
your
I forgot.
face.
Now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well,
there we
go. What was I just talking about?
Fucking shit. There we go. Yeah, you want to have your face oozed on. Got it.
No, it's gone. Whatever it was.
Tell us the best and worst gig that you ever did.
It's the same gig.
Really?
It's the same gig. I did it recently.
Really?
It's the best and worst gig I've ever done. So what was happening? So I did this place in a small town in Tasmania. Now, the first time we were supposed to do it, there was like 60 people out. So they didn't pre-sell the tickets. I was like, that doesn't work. And they were like, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So there was like 65 people out there eating dinner. They were all going to come to the show. The power goes out. so we can't do the show. And they were like, we got to reschedule. I was like, this is a terrible idea. I'm like, I don't really want to reschedule it. Let's just not do it. And he was like, no, we got to do it. So I come back 4 weeks later. He's like, it'll give me more time. We can do more advertising.
Yeah.
The second time, as I'm setting up for the show, I've realized there's nobody out there eating dinner. I had 12 people at the show.
Ooh.
Right now, and if it's 12 people and you've got them in chairs,
yeah,
and the mood is right, you've got the right lighting, like the psychology with comedy is more than 30 people, lights completely off, bright light in your face, crystal clear microphone, standing on a stage, just like when your boss is looking down at you, or a child has to look up, it makes you pay attention. Right? These factors are important.
Me and Matt Storer spoke about this actually. And the ideal room being similar to what Shapiro's.
Or a theater.
Yeah,
a small
but
theater.
I found Shapiro's really good because it was like a fucking bus. It was almost like this. Like it was like long,
rows
thin,
of chairs.
Yeah, dark. No tables. Cunts weren't eating and getting distracted. And the one lit area is right at the end, and everyone looks at it, and the laughter carries.
And it feels a bit claustrophobic.
That's good.
Right? And you're right on top of the person next to you. So important. This room was none of that. The lights were about as dim as these.
Yeah.
I did have a stage. There was chairs everywhere. There was about 70 chairs with tables. The 13 people, they were sitting at the back chairs.
Yep.
Of course. So
as they always
are.
are.
Barrier between us. And I said to the guy, this is not going to... And I just went, he wouldn't have it. I was like, all right, fine. We'll do it your way. We can do it the wrong way, or we can do it my way. And he was like, I want to do it the wrong way. I was like, perfect.
Got it.
So, it was going all right. I was able to carry it for the first kind of 35 minutes.
How long was the set? How long was it supposed to be?
Okay, so it's advertised for 80 minutes. Normally you take an intermission, people can get drinks. But if you've got less than 30 people, you do not want to take an intermission. Any vibe you have, you're going to lose. So I got to 35 minutes, and I said to myself, oh, we're making it to 80. Oh, but you people don't know it, but we're making it to 80. Because I could feel it dying off, right?
Yeah, how was that?
And then you can't save it, because what I've realized is part of the magic of stand-up comedy is the interaction. That's what it was I was going to talk about, is in music, you can hide behind your instrument. People talk about this. Or you hide behind your songs. And they say, oh, in comedy, you can't. You can. You have patented jokes that you've done that you know work, so you just revert to those. But what makes it really a vibrant experience is you've got 50, 60, 90 people in the crowd. This person is laughing funny, so you're commenting on that. This person over here looks like somebody that you know that is in one of your jokes. This person has said something about football. You got a joke about basketball. So now you're bouncing, right? And it's this vibe.
It's a conversation more than it is just a dialogue.
So you're taking it up and
Sorry,
up
monologue.
and up. Yeah. And so when you've got 12 people there, they're silent. If they're laughing at jokes, but there's no vibe that you can work with. Like, if you got 1,000 people, chances are one of them is a professional basketball player. There's a chance. If you got 12 people, no, there is not. There's not anybody who even plays basketball. Anyway,
and they feel a safety in numbers yelling out. Like, if there's 12 of them
because they're
in
anonymous.
a little room, someone's not going to be like, "Oi, dickhead."
That's right. If you're anonymous and it's dark and nobody can see that you just laughed at a joke that might actually be racist, but you're not sure, you'll laugh before you check your laugh.
Yeah.
When the lights are on, and you're like, nope. Right? So there's no vibe. Anyway, so 35 minutes, I've gone, we're making it to 80. So I've gone through another 20 minutes, skipped the intermission, and we're at 55 minutes, and it's dead. And I said out loud, oh, we're making it through another 20 minutes. And that I knew would silence them. The next 20, I did 23 more minutes.
Yeah.
Where it was like, joke. I didn't smile, I didn't laugh, they didn't laugh. Joke.
Really?
And I've got like 2 hours of material. That last 25 minutes, like 23 minutes, was about 37, 38 minutes of material. Just
because of
compressed.
No space for laughter. They weren't laughing.
I went to an orgy once at my uncle's barn, dairy barn. Wasn't nothing but all my cousins standing around getting sucked off by the milking machine. And to this day, I'm still upset those bastards nicknamed me the milking machine. That was it. And then it was just the next one.
What?
Right? And it was great. So we got to 83 minutes. I said, thank you, good night. And everybody just got up and left. Nobody talked to me afterwards. Now, why that was the greatest gig ever? If you can make it through 23 minutes, being confident enough to know your material is funny and just doing it joke after joke after joke, You're a god. No feedback.
Or you're clinically retarded.
Or clinically retarded.
But okay, Jimmy, that's amazing.
I'm not saying I'm a god, but
no.
it made me feel like I got off and I was emotionally wrecked. I was exhausted. I was sweating. I don't sweat on stage.
Yeah.
I was pouring, right? But I was like, we're making it through. It was the greatest test of growth in my comedy experience. That's why it was the greatest.
It's unbelievably confident and commendable in the sense that you're like, I don't think I could face that. I would struggle with that, right? What I would do.
Not only that
is
I tricked myself into walking off the stage and not just surviving, but being like, I'm a god.
See, that's fucking awesome. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of your confidence. But no, what I would do there,
it was either that or I was going to cry myself to sleep.
If that was an important gig, which obviously to you wasn't very important, but in that situation, what I would do, and this has happened before, when my material at some point stops working, right? And it's a crowd that small, I basically chuck it out and I just talk to them. Because you need to get that feedback back.
Oh, I had already tried that. That was the mid part. That was 35 to 55 minutes. That was me trying to...
So it was okay at the start, dropped off a bit, you tried to save it.
For 20 minutes, tried to save it. And
you were doing crowd work for 20 minutes.
Well, crowd work and then interspersing jokes.
And that didn't pick him up.
Talking to the people. Oh, no. I did... Here's where it really died. This was at 55 minutes. I did my joke, which is kind of based on a true story, about how a guy... I was maybe... a year into comedy.
Yeah.
I done my little 5 minutes. I thought I did so good. And the guy come up out of the audience, real sincere, and he goes, Jimmy, I just want you to know that you're a real inspiration for all the other ones who also have autism. People are kind of laughing. A woman yells from the audience, Hey! I've got a son who's got autism! I went, I can't help you right now. I don't... What? I was like...
Wait, she said this in the gig with 12 people?
In the middle of... Yeah. And
really?
I was like, and they were... Somebody yells, You're lucky that Anna's not here. And I'm pretty sure I knew who she was. I go, Is she the one who's got Down syndrome? And then somebody yelled out, You're not funny! I was like, oh.
In this 12-person gig. Dude, heckling with 12 people. Like, you really need to fuck up to get heckled by people who are right there. Holy shit.
With the lights on. I can see you.
Holy shit.
And I was like, we're making it through another 20.
Oh my god. How come people weren't just leaving?
Because they were hoping it was gonna get better.
Joke's on them, it didn't.
Oh,
holy shit, man. That's fucked.
It was fucking
like I said, your confidence is something I envy. That is unbelievable.
I mean, when you say best gig, like most amount of laughter.
Yeah, what is the best gig?
Man,
mine was on a fucking paddle steamer boat.
To be honest with you,
were you there for that one? Were you there for my paddle steamer gig?
I think so.
It's fucking great.
Did you leave a steamer?
I did. Cleveland steamer. Yeah. That was my merch. I'm giving out Cleveland steamers, everybody, when you get off.
I mean, look, you know, it was doing the Regal Theater was because it's a big theater.
Yeah, that was your solo show.
We were able to sell out the bottom floor. We couldn't sell the top because of COVID stuff. So during COVID, we had 500 people.
That's great.
And it was, but again, I reckon when you're over 250 people, and they're laughing constantly because you're gonna get enough people to laugh. But do
you reckon bigger audiences mean that?
Yeah. Some people are gonna laugh. It's gonna be contagious. They're set up in a theater. It's gonna be a bigger audience is gonna have more laughter, even per capita or whatever. I think. But the ideal, 250 people, where you can still have interaction, right? Like even if they're at the back, you can hear and converse with them, even if you can't see them in the darkness.
Yeah.
Right. Your front row is maybe 20 people across, right? So you can
they're
see
far
that front
though.
row.
Like the Regal Theater, right? They're far.
That's what I'm saying. Is when you get a big theater, the reason you would do big theaters, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's worth doing. So that you can do the other gigs that you want to do, and you're financed to do whatever you want to do if you do some big theaters here and there, and that's cool. But it does, I can tell, it loses some of its personal nature. You know, so
it's you and them.
Yeah.
It's not we're in this together.
So that audience of between 90 to 250 people, man, That's great. So I did a lot of these gigs in Tassie, which there was 85 and 90 people crammed into. Oh,
That's good.
So good.
That's what you want.
And then, like, you're getting that rolling laughter, and you're commenting. Somebody dropped a glass, and it was an old guy. And
I love those gigs,
I'd been
man.
talking to him before, so everybody knew he was old. And I went, "That sounded expensive. Was that your hip?"
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
And like, so then you get that camaraderie, or you get that interaction.
They're on your
personal
side.
Yeah.
Like, they want you to do well at that point.
You
They're
know,
not sitting there like, come on, we
if
paid
you're-
money, entertain us.
If you're at 8,000, how are you going to reach the person in the back? I mean, you will, because
Well, that's when you need to be fucking good.
Well,
like,
yeah.
that's why...
I imagine that I'm
You
only
need to be
saying
a
this
fucking
because I've never
professional.
done 8,000
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I don't even want to do 8,000.
Yeah, I don't even want to. And then you're doing 8,000 people, you're like, why would I ever do 100?
Yeah, I think that is a next level skill, to be honest. It's not just I'm funny. It's like you need to know a lot about crowd dynamics, and you need to be like malleable. You know, like if it's going a bit quiet, you need to know here's what I do. Here's what I do to bring them up, and I pivot. I can talk. I can there's
and
a lot.
apparently, if you're in a situation like that, it's a lot of stage acting, a lot of act outs. Like Kevin Hart had said that when there's a big auditorium, he needs to be more mobile.
Well, it's like drama, like acting in theater versus acting on camera. On camera, it's all about little subtle gestures, and you look that way a little bit, and it tells a story. Whereas, like in theater, it's like, oh, we must, like, you know, this kind of shit. You don't see this on TV, you know.
So I could run into a problem because I believe in telling jokes, right? So I stand in the middle of the stage, like this, and I just go joke.
I mean, there's comedians who do that, of course.
But doing that in a big theater, I don't know if you need to.
What about like fucking Jim Jeffries and shit? He just tells jokes, doesn't move too much.
No, but he's walking around a lot. I don't know. I haven't gotten.
You don't
yet.
walk?
No.
Really?
I stand in one place and I tell jokes. The reason is because I have this. Maybe it's a hang up. Maybe it's a bias, but it's a philosophy as well, based on some research. 55% of what makes people laugh is your body dynamics. 38%, I don't know who did this research, 38% is your vocal intonations. Right? Only 7% of what creates laughter, triggers laughter, is the actual words. Okay, so I am interested in the actual words, in ending the sentence correctly, in changing the sentence structure so the word ends on the reveal. Because it's the words. Everything else you can add afterwards. If you're the best actor ever, your shit ain't funny if you don't have punchlines. So develop the punchlines, you can add all the other shit afterwards. So I want punchlines that are so strong, I can turn my back on the audience and say them, and people still go, oh my God, that is so funny.
That's so good. That is creating, like we were saying before, that is creating struggle for yourself in an environment where it's either grow or die. You could fucking die hard by doing that, but you are growing, you are persisting.
It's not that I want to be the best, but I don't want to be shit. I don't
think anyone's saying you're shit.
No, but I don't want to be this person who you can see they're faking it. They're up there and they're acting out, and yeah, that's great. The words better work.
Yeah.
If your accent changes, the words better still work, right? So to me, being the best that I can be means writing it correctly and then delivering it.
That's great.
And I hate my jokes. There's one of my jokes which is true. It's about Americans, and they don't travel outside of America. And a guy asked me at a petrol station, you know, how long did it take y'all to drive here?
From Australia.
Yeah. And then the punchline.
This is true.
Yes. And then I said to the guy.
American moment.
And then I said to the guy, man, everybody knows you can't drive a car to get all the way from America to Australia to America. I said, I had to ride my kangaroo. It gets some laugh. It gets way more laugh when I say, I had to ride my kangaroo. Like I'm talking, it gets 5 times the amount of laughter.
Yeah.
I hate that joke because it's dependent on the vocal intonation.
Wow. You are a pure stand-up comic.
But it's a good joke, it's funny, and it's true, so I gotta tell it. I took it out of my set for a while though because I hated it.
No, that's fair enough. I would get sick of my jokes after a while. What would you say, right? Someone's just starting out in stand-up. They're 18 years old. They want to give this a go. They want to get as good as they can. How do you let an 18-year-old know who's just started comedy? How do you get them to be as good as they can be in the shortest time possible?
The best advice I can give?
Yes.
Get a real job.
Don't get into it.
Don't do it. Because Gary Shandling said this. Shandling said, it's too painful unless you are obsessed, unless you feel it is a calling from God. It is too painful to do it, to continue with it, so you shouldn't do it.
And that wraps it up, right?
It could wrap it up.
No, okay, well, let's say they are like, no, fuck you, Jimmy. I really want to be a stand-up comedian. I watched Seinfeld when I was a kid. Okay. I want to be like him.
Then I think everybody does it wrong.
Okay.
I constantly say this. People go, no, well, I can do it my way because it's an expression of... Yeah, but you're doing it wrong. You can do it wrong if you want to and fail, or you can do it the right way. So no neurosurgeon ever gets in there and just starts operating. First, they have to take physics and chemistry and calculus. Shit that has nothing to do with brain surgery. Right? Then, did I say neurophysicist or what did I say?
I heard neurophysicist, but whatever.
Well, whatever. I meant somebody who does neuroanatomy, I don't know.
Yeah,
what the word
neuroscience.
Brain surgeon.
Yeah, brain surgeon.
I can't. My brain is blanking.
Yeah. The irony.
And then they do gross anatomy and they do cellular physiology. You have to build the foundation before you just like build the superstructure, right? So all these people are trying to develop a stage presence, and they're acting, and they're marketing, and they're not fucking funny because they don't know how to write a punchline. Learn how to write punchlines. There are 12 or so laughter triggers. There are...
What are those laughter triggers?
Things that make people laugh. There's irony, ambivalence, benign retaliation. So in a joke, if you're a mean person in the joke, like I call a woman fat in one of my jokes, I have to establish early on that I am retaliating in a benign manner because early on in the joke, she used to tease me for being a little fat kid because I was a little fat kid.
So you can't just be outright mean.
Now later, when I'm mean to her, it's seen as a benign retaliation.
That's like, right, it's like poetic justice.
Side, you have to be the hero.
Yeah.
Right? So you're striking back against somebody evil because they traumatized you as a child. Now it's okay.
Right. That's interesting.
So there's those little tricks. But what you do, you don't know those little tricks at first. You just get up there and you wrote a little joke. You've got a premise, and then you tried to say the most messed up thing you could about it in response. Right? So like one of the first jokes that I came up with that really worked was... So the short version of it is this, and this isn't the way I do it because I have to change it around a little bit, but I'm all for same-sex marriage because any marriage with sex in it is better than my marriage. Right? Now the way the joke is, because now it has to have somebody else. I can't say that. That's homophobic or some shit. Or no, it's against your wife. Right? So if you're in a relationship,
people still laugh
you're
about
punching
that.
down on your missus, but they laugh more when I say... So when I was growing up, I was 8 years old. My father was a real redneck. He was a mechanic and just really rough. Randomly, I'm eating breakfast one day, and he says to me, "Jimmy, I'm all for same-sex marriage because any marriage is better than mine if it's got sex in it." Right? Now people laugh more because you didn't do the reveal, the sex word reveal, in the middle of the joke. It's now at the end.
That's a core tenet of comedy.
It's not me punching down on my missus. It's a grumpy old hillbilly punching down on his missus, which is my mother, which makes it really uncomfortable.
Is that better though?
Yeah, because now it's uncomfortable. Because then I can follow it up with, that falls into like the top 3 things I did not need to hear before eating my Cocoa Pops. Right? So it's a little extra laughter. It's just as uncomfortable.
That's funny. I love that.
Right?
That's a good tag.
So you restructure the joke. But you start with just a 2-line joke. And I also believe you don't want a piece of paper where you're reading like this because you have no connection to the audience. But also, you don't want to just be talking to the audience without jokes. Oh, I got a connection, but no punchline. So what you do is, I had on the card 2 words. Same-sex marriage. Okay? Lower the cards.
3 words.
Now, whatever.
Literacy is not his strong
Same
point.
sex is a hyphenated word. Boom. I don't know if that's true. It probably.
No, it is. It is. Fuck.
So then I can say to the audience, without being scripted, here's how this joke goes. They know it's a joke. Okay, so I got this joke. I'm all for same-sex marriage, right? And then you do it, and then they either laughed or they didn't. And if they didn't laugh, I'd be, so wait, did I say that wrong, or did I say this, or is it not funny because of that? Okay, next one. Right? They know you're testing jokes, and comedians. A guy named Sean told me that was the most unprofessional. You can't be doing that. It's unprofessional. I don't know if you know this. I'm not a professional comedian. I'm like 8 months in. This is amateur comedy. What are you? You're not a professional comedian, right? You're testing jokes. Get up there and test 10 jokes in 5 minutes. 10 jokes in 5 minutes. And you do that for 200 gigs, and you've tested 2,000 jokes. Some of them are overlap, you're rewriting them. But in my first 200 gigs, I probably tested 1,000 different jokes.
Do you know what?
Out of that, I ended up with maybe 100 that were good. My jokes averaged 35 seconds each, so I'm talking about...
Like you in bed.
Exactly.
I just got to keep peppering jokes in there. Just quickly, what I love as well about the way that you approached it, which I think every up-and-coming comedian needs to do, treat stand-up gigs like your open mic gigs as testing grounds. Don't try and like win the approval of the room. Like you would do this where you'd be like, if things are not going that well, I could go and do my best shit just to keep these people happy. But it's about what you're doing. It's about your long-term mission.
The long-term mission.
Yes. So many people.
Mission statement.
Yeah, there you go. But it does come back to that because like it's tempting, and I would do this a lot, when things are going bad, it's like, fuck, I still want to have a good show tonight. I still want to feel good about myself. So I'll give them some good bits just to pick it back up. Yeah. But you would just be like, things aren't going good. Who fucking cares? I'm trying this material whether you like it or not.
The joke is either good or not. So here's where...
But that's what made you good, because you didn't care about the audience at the time. It was like, I need to get these jokes out. I need to see which works. And then you might have had bad joke, bad joke, bad joke, bad joke. When someone else back here would have just brought out their A game, you just kept going. And then this one worked. And it's like,
Yeah, if it worked...
He learned more than the person who pleased the audience.
And like you always hear, like... And people try to apply professional advice to amateur gigs. When you're doing a tight 5 minutes, your second best joke is first, your best joke is last. Yeah, that's great if you're getting a paid gig or something. Yeah. Right? But what you want to do, this was the trick I used, though it takes a high level of confidence. It's not level of confidence. You got to build up a metaphorical scar on your jaw for taking that many punches. And once you don't care anymore, you're like, I'm just here to test stuff. And the other thing is, if people get confused when they're doing amateur comedy. They think if I told a good joke and people laughed, I'm a good person. But if I told a bad joke, I'm a bad person. No. If you told a good joke, but you're a bad person, people will laugh. If you told a bad joke, but you're a good person, it doesn't mean you're a bad person now. You're not the material. You're testing the material. So you need to just be able to step back and go, look, I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall. The thing that I figured out was, when the room is cold and you're up first, do the toughest joke.
Shivers thinking about it.
Do the toughest joke that you can possibly, the one that you're like, man, this is so harsh. And then if people laugh at that when you did it as your first joke in a cold room, dude, that is a joke that is gold that you can use forever. God
damn. Right? That is throwing yourself in the deep end.
Yeah, and like you told me not to do it.
When?
You're like, Jimmy, you cannot do it.
What joke was it?
And now it's one of my best jokes, the joke that you told me not to do.
Which
joke? That place up north.
Yeah.
And they had the, what was it called? It was some bistro bar. And the joke was...
Exmouth.
The joke is, no, not that far north, like Joondalup area.
Yeah.
You can't... Belvedere is the name of the bar. Belvedere Bar.
I remember this.
Right? And the joke is... there are certain words you can't say anymore. You can't call them retardeds no more. Now they want you to call them the proper term, which is feminist. And you were like, no. And then
fair enough.
But people
stand by my old belief.
People wouldn't laugh, and so I would do this thing where I was like, yeah, right. And then people would laugh because they were like, oh, he knows that he's not supposed to be saying it. But now I'm at the point where my confidence level is so different, I can just say it.
That's so
And
funny.
I know they're going to laugh, so they laugh.
But also,
When
your
I used
level
to
of
say
confidence.
It, I thought I would say it differently.
Yeah.
Or I thought I was saying it the same. I must have been saying it differently because they wouldn't laugh. They would just go, oh,
No, because you're confident with it now.
Now-
It's your confidence that pushes it, man.
Like now, I'm like, I go to say it, and I'm like, I know you're gonna laugh.
Mm.
I don't say that, but in my mind, it's like this mind trick where I go, like you're gonna laugh.
Yeah.
You know, feminism.
They detect that don't give a fuck attitude. And this is why I believe, what was the date that I bombed?
31st of August, 2017.
He remembers. I bombed so hard once, man. I've talked about this on the live stream before, which every Monday, tune in live stream right here on Twitch. I've talked about this quite a bit, but that was, so what, like I was saying earlier, in stand-up, you try and get your best 5. You get your tight 5, right? And that's like the best material. You've done 20 minutes, let's say, and you've whittled down the best 5 minutes. And that is meant to work everywhere. I won competitions with this 5 minutes, right? One day, August 31st?
31st. I think it was a Tuesday.
I think it was Tuesday, at Decanter Bar in Vic Park.
I think it was 2018, to be honest.
Oh, fucking hell, Jimmy.
No, 2017.
Good. Yeah, that 2018 was too late. I quit by then, I think.
OCD.
Yeah.
Anyways, yes. Tell us about your...
So I do that, and I go in there like, yeah, whatever. Like, I was always nervous before gigs, but I was like, it's fine. It's my 5 minutes. It'll work, as it always does. Go up there. I don't know what it was. Did my first joke. No one laughed. Did my second joke. No one laughed. And that's a big build up to my big Croatian bit, which is a 2.5 minute fucking commitment. It's a roller coaster ride, right? And if no one was on board, they were all at the fucking ticket place just waiting. And nothing. I got 5 minutes of the most fucked reaction, and one guy was in the front.
That's not even the good part.
Well, yeah, well, okay.
The good part, from the way you've told it,
Yeah.
ruin your own story.
No, that's
there,
fine.
But you decided to do some crowd work. Started talking to the audience, and you're talking to the guy.
That's
at the
what I
table.
do when things don't work very well. And yes, I looked at one guy and to get his attention and his response, and this is like I said, like action tells 1,000 words. Like imagine you or me, and you look at him to get the engagement, and he's just like sheepishly looking down, like I was like.
His eyes. I can't look away. I can't look away.
Oh my god, yeah, it was like a car crash, slow motion car crash. And I just walked off stage, thanks guys, to just...
And then, do you remember, you came outside, and you were just shaking, and you like sat on the curb, and you were like, what happened? And you remember what I said?
What?
You suck.
Oh man, I've got some serious bomb stories, but... bombs fucking hit me hard, man. I do not like to bomb. You seem to not care, which is amazing. But...
Just build up a callus to it.
Yeah, and had I continued longer, I would have. But eventually I was like, stand up, I enjoy it. It's not my thing though. Videos and on camera is where I love it. It's my favorite thing. But I think what happened there, because I've analyzed it, as you can imagine, several times since, I think what happened there, something was off. Okay, who knows? An audience is its own entity. You don't know what's going on. Something happened just before you. The previous person was funny. You look like someone that reminds this person of someone they hate. They're cold. God knows what happened. I went out there. First joke didn't go very well for whatever reason. Maybe I'm just not funny.
Your first joke is the N-word. That's why.
I do come out just blasting.
And it was an all-black audience.
Yeah. So we did. Yeah, it was an African comedy night, and I just yelled up, "What up, mate?" Yeah. No, and it didn't work.
Neighbors.
Yeah. And for some reason, it didn't go down well. So the first one for some reason didn't work, and then I think what happens is I get in my own head. I think it's like, uh-oh. And then the next one, like, people are fucking smart. Human beings, we are tuned into body language and subtle differences, man. If that was all on a typewriter, it was exactly as I said it, as on the paddle boat steamer, right?
They smell your pheromones.
They smell the fear, man. They could tell. First joke didn't fly. Second one, I'm a little bit more desperate. I'm leaning in a bit more. I'm talking maybe not as confidently, and maybe a couple more ums and ahs. And then it's just like, oh, hold on, no. And then it just gets worse and worse, man. Yeah, exactly. And then it's just like, oh. And then as they're giving worse feedback and looking down, I'm getting more and more desperate to try and win them back. And it's just fucking 2 lines like this. It was the worst. I think that's what happens.
You could have parted the Red Sea.
I fucking would have rather drowned in the Red
If you
Sea.
would have walked up through that audience, it would have been like a magnet going, just pushing them apart.
God damn. Yeah. Don't get me started on that gig I did where I made lesbian jokes to a crowd of lesbians. That was pretty good.
My favorite...
Nearly got bashed.
My favorite joke I ever did, which was just off the cuff.
Yeah.
And audience loved it. And this was part of my train wreck in Perth comedy. And I never tell this joke on stage.
Multifaceted
You're getting
wreck.
a joke I never tell on stage because I consider it too funny. It might be a little too rough.
Let me remember the time code so I can beep it out. 202, good, yeah.
So there is a comedy gig in Frio, and I'm just doing my 5-minute open mic testing jokes, and there's these young guys in the audience, and they start going, like, there's like 5 of them that are friends. They're like, oh, I want to come to the small towns in America where you're from. And I just randomly said, you think you do, but you don't. Because in the winter, it's 40 below zero. And in the summer, it's nothing but corn and pigs. And that's just our women. And audience laughed. They erupted. They thought it was funny. The booker, who happens to be a female, larger woman, somebody was like, did you see her? I was like, no. They said, I thought her face was going to explode. She was so red.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, well, that's the last time I'll get a gig there.
And was it?
Last time I got a gig there.
Really? Man, I found that, and this is a good transition into political correctness in comedy, because I love this topic.
Just to get to tell that joke.
No, that
on
is
the
good.
podcast
Yeah, exactly. No, that's it. I'm glad that you finally aired it to. This goes to a bigger conversation about political correctness in comedy, which I know we're both very passionate about.
I don't think it exists.
I don't think it should exist. I think it does. I don't think it should.
It does not.
No, what I'm saying is that I think it's imposed not by the audience, it's imposed by other comedians.
You
because
are correct.
I've had a handful of times where I've said like, because my style of comedy is not offensive. It's just, I don't really find that kind of shit.
By that he means not funny.
Yes, yeah.
Podcasting.
I try and avoid 2 things: offensiveness and laughter. Yeah, so if I can just get through the set with neither of those things, I'm happy. No, but I don't do offensive comedy. I didn't do offensive comedy. But I would have a few jokes that were kind of teetered on racial. I remember making some joke about my Asian roommate eating my cat. It was just dumb. It was dumb, right? But the audience.
True story, though.
Yeah. She's now missing a nose, so I don't know. It might have been a midnight snack. Who knows? But I told that joke, and it was like not that good a joke. And that's another part of it, is that you can get away with offensive shit if it's funny. If it's not funny, it's just offensive. So there were comedians who would just go in there deliberately saying offensive shit and being like, oh, it's fucking political correctness gone mad. It's like, no, you're just not funny. Yeah. This joke I thought was actually okay. Some people did laugh, but it's
Which
never...
joke, the Asian cat joke?
Yes, the Asian cat one. It was just a tag. It wasn't like the full joke. It's never, I find the audience, in my opinion, it was never really the audience being like, no, don't say that. It was always other comedians.
It was comedians, and I mean, look, to be fair, in that room where the booker blew up about that, they have a room that they feel needs to run according to certain guidelines. And if you screw up those guidelines, it affects their bottom dollar. They're losing money. They're losing patrons.
But does it?
Well, potentially. They feel it does. Like at the Comedy Lounge, you can't get up there and do horrible material, because then Johnny won't have people coming in who paid good money to laugh. They didn't pay to think. They didn't pay... They pay to just be entertained. They're not even comedy connoisseurs that are going out. They're like, what can we do on a Saturday night? Right? So you have to curate the material, because you have a business that has a mission statement, and it does not include, it might not say you can't do that material, but it doesn't include that kind of stuff. We have a product we are delivering, right? So then if you got a television station and they have stockholders, right, and they have a product that they need to deliver to make a certain amount of money, that is their right as a business to censor you.
That is absolutely true.
And if you don't like it, build your own shit. Build your own business.
Is this precisely why you're doing what you're doing?
Start your own rooms, do your own gigs. Absolutely.
This is partly why I'm doing what I did. So I've said before, obviously, I worked at Channel 9 and loved it. Awesome job. Great. COVID happened and I was just gone like that. The show was doing good.
Can I just give a shout out to Fuck Channel 7? I don't know.
Yeah, anyways, I just burn. Let's burn another bridge in TV while we're here. Why not? No, but like COVID happened, our ratings going up, so things were going well. But then COVID happened, and resources get pulled away. Whatever, our show came off air. It was like realizing at that point, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to get my hopes. It was a lot of disappointment. It was a lot of like, I loved it. It was awesome, so good. I'd happily do it, right? But then it was like, you're a glamorous employee.
You're an employee.
But you're an employee, right? You've got what so many comedians would kill for. So many comedians would be like, oh my God, yes. Just a big, like, essentially just a daddy network giving me approval and lifting me up and putting me in front of its people.
But see, this is the problem with
and
being
it's sick.
philosophically sound.
Yes.
This is the problem, because then you go, well, yeah, but I'm a slave.
Yes.
I'm not building my own business.
Well, it took
They hired me to build theirs.
And it took me losing my job there and going through a fucking emotional hard time, realizing I've lost everything I thought I wanted, to be like, if I remained in that for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, would I have just been so content and just been happy and just been like, yes, it's ticking my boxes. Now what?
But the realization
would I have been like, fuck, 5 years in, what have I done?
that you actually have nothing,
That
and you wasted 5 years.
and they can drop me at any point.
Yeah,
and
so
now,
that's what I mean. You have nothing. You have no security.
yeah, no, well,
They
it's
gave you money.
well, there's multiple facets to security, because it's also what I'm doing now is not necessarily secure. But my realization is people being like, why are you trying to get back into TV? It's like TV is a dying medium. It's going to take a while. It's getting very slow, but it is
You're
dying.
trying to get back into it or not trying to get back into it?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But yeah, people are confused by that because they're like, that is the pinnacle. Why are you not doing that like you were, you know? I am so much more driven now, based on my experiences, to be like, build your own audience. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm focusing on. That's what this is. That's what the TikTok stuff is. Build my own audience like building a business, where it's like, I don't want to be dependent on anyone. I don't care if it's glamorous and you make great money with it. I want my own thing that I'm in control of, that I can, I'm not going to lose that. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe you get cancelled or whatever, but when you've got an audience, you can do what you want. It's just, it's so much more self-contained, and it's that whole I have my own thing mindset of, not being beholden, not being a slave. Like, there's a lot there.
The name of this podcast, Two Poor People in Denial.
Massive Cope with Adrian.
Massive Cope! That would be the best name for a podcast.
Nah, look, it was. If someone comes along and is like, "Hey, do you want a job on TV?" For sure, right? It would be great. But I have.
You would use it.
I would use it, yeah.
Used by.
So now my idea has changed in that it's like TV's
Just
not
growing up so much.
Oh, thanks, man. No, now it's like I don't actually want full-time TV work. What I want is to use that to springboard my own platform. For extra exposure, to be like, oh, these people can see me here, come to my world.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like a slave to them, because, yeah, man, like you are an employee. You're a glamorous employee, but you are an employee. And that's something I don't want anymore.
The thing with these kind of pursuits, and again, are we just trying to cope?
Massive cope with Adrian.
But you gotta just be doing it because it's what you do. What you enjoy doing. And life is meaningless if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Oh, yeah,
and then hopefully, over time, you can monetize it, as they say, and have a living out of it. But, yeah, you're just doing it because it's what you do.
And going back to what you said, there's creative freedom in that. If I was on TV, I would get in trouble for saying the word bloody.
Yeah, you couldn't say You'd have to bleep it out every time I say that.
115, 202, 211. Good, yeah.
Can I say it again?
Please, no.
No.
I want to put as little effort
I
into
love
answering.
that in Australia, you can drop the C-bomb with just no problems.
I'm just scared of it fuck it, whatever, I'll just keep it up, who cares? You're saying it, not me.
That's true. And
I don't condone it, but he's saying it.
And then there'll be the outrage against you. The most hits I ever had on a YouTube video was all based on outrage.
What happened?
When I explained a joke that I did about a transgender joke.
Oh, I remember that
Which
video.
I did not feel was all that terrible.
Yeah.
And I explained the joke, and then I had like 1,000 views in a day.
Really?
Like, yeah, because people were just angry. And at the time, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't realize you can use that propaganda. Like that, you can use
any
that
publicity. Is good
publicity.
Yep, absolutely.
I didn't know how to use it because I was only like 3 years in.
Yeah.
So I just shut it all down.
No.
You know. And now I look back and I go, oh, if I could only replicate that again,
Yeah,
I would
man.
use that.
No, dude, and that takes a certain level of like of strength. Like I'll do this as
But
well.
I had not built enough of a foundation to understand how you use publicity.
Yeah.
And how you bend it to your will. I didn't know how to do that, so I was just like, I know how to quash it.
Squash. Nah, I think it's squash. Same thing with like certain. I used to be really anal about things on TikTok about like if I made a mistake in the video, if I said something wrong, or I was like, oh, like I don't know what it was. It was just like people think I'm stupid, man. People are gonna think I'm dumb, or they're gonna comment and be like, you said this when you should have. Now, if I see a mistake, I'm like, oh, cool, because it means that they're gonna comment, which boosts the algorithm, which shows more people. Or even if I'm slightly wrong at a point, I'm starting to, comments are more important than anything.
No, but people
comments
comment
and shares.
on you itched your nose at 5 minutes and 12 seconds.
Well, maybe not that minor, but they will comment on little things like that. People are petty.
Oh, you should just have just riddled with mistakes then.
Yeah, it actually would help. I mean, not so much that it affects the quality of the video, but like if you've got a few things here or there, or you said something slightly wrong, people will comment, and the algorithm doesn't know. They just know that someone has engaged, which means more people are likely to engage. Let's show it to more people. So it's actually good to do that. Going back to what I was saying earlier, the beauty of what you and I are doing, once again, massive cope with Adrian featuring Jimmy. Here's why it's good no one wants to employ us. Here's another reason, is that we have creative freedom. Like I said, I was on TV, man. You got to be fucking like. I loved it, and I was still being able to do my thing, but I was very aware. I was very like.
Lose weight.
Yes.
That was one of the things you talked about.
Yeah, producers would call me and be like, Adrian, you're a fat cunt. No, so they would.
Did they comment about it, or you just thought to yourself, I got to look better on camera?
You saying I was fat?
You were.
When?
Before you got on television, or when you first started, you were like, I am gonna actually.
I was fat. Yes. I remember this one gig where one comedian was like, "Fuck, he's put on weight, man." I'm like, "Fuck, he's right."
And you were like, "I gotta get this under control."
Yeah.
And you said for television, it'll help.
Yeah, I did. I didn't know I was gonna be on TV at that point.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. But okay, so I have always been very principled in my opinions, right? So I was on a news talk show.
I imagine in the TV industry,
Yeah.
if a woman is a little overweight, they come in and they go, "Hey, you gotta lose a little bit of weight." As a man, they go, "Look, you're getting a little bit big. We need you to be funnier."
Yes, many conversations around the board table. No, but there was one time, funnily enough, that I walked into this I walked, into the office, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking of getting a haircut." And like two producers turned around, like, "What?" I was like, "Well, I'm just getting a bit sick of having long hair." They're like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's probably might want to run that one past the boss." And like literally, they're like, "You have to run that past the boss because it's like that's your brand now." And the thing is, like on TV, and this is why TV kind of sucks as well, is that people don't follow because they love you, or they really love what you're doing, or you resonate with them. It's just you're there, and so they're just used to you. And you don't know who's there because they like you and who's not. When you've got your own audience, something you say is resonating with them. Right? For some reason, they like you enough. If you're watching right now, if you've sat through 2 hours and 15 minutes of this utter shit right now, it means that you're probably relating to me on some level. 2 hours 15. But it's on TV. Like I would have just been the man bun guy. Like they wouldn't have even known my name.
You were.
They would
People
say,
say to me, "You know the guy with the man bun."
Yeah, the man bun guy. Yeah, exactly. You're just your most distinct feature, right? You're not, Adrian Allerberg, and they know your story and they know what you like and your personality. There's man bun guy. Yeah. And it's like,
And now that you've got control over your own brand, why the hell haven't you cut it off?
Great question. I actually do want a haircut, and now it's been so long, I just don't know what I want to do.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but no, so like, so they do sort of control it in that regard. What I was going to say is the creativity is that I was always very principled in what I believe, right? So we'd have a news talk segment, and every other guest that they would get on there, it'd be me and another guest, and they would give us stories, and we'd have to give our opinions. And the other people I'm with, I'm convinced were not hardcore lefties who believed every single thing that they said, right? it was just people being cautious. They're on TV, they don't want to get cancelled. So they would be like, oh, yes, I totally agree that we should cancel Australia Day forever and we should do this. And oh, no, I think it's a great idea that, we change our flag to the trans flag or whatever. Yeah. Just whatever, like, social justice-y thing was going on.
Oh, the Australian flag could very easily just turn it light blue and the stars kind of pink and...
yeah. Well, whatever it is. But, like, any social justice issue would come up. And the person I was with, inevitably, I'll be able to pick their opinion. They're just being safe, and I get it. Like, people aren't, whatever, they have their own thing, but for me, what I believe in is important. So I would make my point, but I would need to dance around it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, like, here's what I want to say. Here's where I am.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, look, I'm all for change. I think progress is great. I think this is really
important. Joke here, and then
yeah. And then fucking what about airline peanuts, eh? And then and then so you'd make I'd dance around it. Yeah, totally agree. This is this. But we also got to keep in mind that sometimes traditions need to be upheld for whatever yada yada yada. So something, and then this is what I believe, right? When you've got your own audience like this, think about how much fucking airtime you've wasted. Yeah. To get to there, saying all this fluffy shit for your 5 minutes, not even, I'd be on there for 2.5 minutes, right? When you have your own audience and people are listening, I'm getting there. No, I think this is done for this reason. I truly believe that, okay? That's fine. I can say what I want because whether people agree with me or not, I can feel comfortable saying that, knowing that I'm not going to have a producer be like, hey, we can't really have you back. So for that reason, it's like you've got creative control. I can swear, I can do whatever I want. And like TV is a very... It's not like fake. It's not like there's fake people. Everyone I interacted with was great. The people are good. But on air, there's like a level of decorum. It's like you're being introduced to a person for the first time every time you're on TV. When you first meet someone, are you your truest self? No, you're the polite version of yourself because we're human beings. That's how we interact. It's like, hi, nice to meet you. How are you? Good. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, but I mean, you're not coming in with your fucking shoving it in her ass joke. Like... Everyone, when you meet someone, you are your politest self, right? You try and start at a level of like, you're gauging where they are, you're both doing that, and then like, if this person goes a little bit more, politically incorrect, then you go a little bit, and then we get to our level, TV, every time you're on, you are always at that polite level because you don't get feedback, you don't know what they're like, you're scared of losing your job. This is me. Like, this is how I actually am, right? On TV, no one is themselves. They have to be that polite level or risk losing their job or just offend people, whatever.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I think it's good for that reason.
I have a little philosophy on that, which would not be applicable to television.
Right.
But it's been applicable to people I meet, whether it be in comedy, relationships, unfortunately with family who didn't agree with me. And that is, instead of this dance that you do when you start dating somebody, and for 3 years we're gonna figure out, and then you reveal a little more and you reveal a little more, and then after 3 or 5 years you break up, and you're like, oh shit, I wasted 5 years. I was like, nope. Here's my top 3 things. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Like I said to my missus, I go, look, I don't know where this is going. I said, but if we were to ever get married, you gotta take my last name. I'm not living in America, and if we have kids, not getting vaccinated. And she was like, let me think about this. Yeah. Came back to me and went, oh yeah, okay. All right, so then it's gonna be smooth sailing. Well, not smooth sailing, and still dealing with a relationship.
Yeah. Still need to be married to the person for 50 years.
But yeah, like. If I kind of am on this thing where I don't want to waste time with too much small talk. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to be. Obviously, you can't be totally your asshole self.
No.
But I'm gonna be pretty genuine from the beginning.
That's good. That is a good thing.
So that you're like, oh, I'm never gonna talk to this guy again, or instantly you're like, I love this guy. Like I could be mates with this guy. So
and people do that, and that's,
But what happens in comedy, of course, is you're just kind of trying to blend with everybody. What I did was straight in, half the community hated me.
You split the community quite a bit.
Yeah, I split it, definitely.
But it was interesting because I was able to see both sides.
Half loved me. I didn't get to say that.
No, half did love you. Yes. And you started, like, imagine this was the whole comedy scene, everyone's struggling, trying to get fucking 7 weekly gigs That was all less. I'm talking about 4 weekly gigs were
There was
available.
only three. There was only
Three?
There
Three
was
weekly gigs? Okay.
No, you could get a gig
Hundreds of people
once a week. There was only 3 rooms.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. You're right. Then you came in and pierced this bubble, right? Because half hated you, and then you started your own thing, and then half were like, oh, fuck yeah, more gigs, and I believe in this guy, and I like him. And these people stayed here, and that's fine. They had their own things going on. You started this little splinter cell,
there was just two separate communities.
I think that's good.
Interestingly,
Yeah.
And here's how I know, because people kind of go, oh, well, no, you're giving yourself too much credit. Since I've moved to Tasmania, the community is now one community again.
Really? Interesting.
And now it's like, Tim is like, it's like everybody just kind of gets along.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they don't necessarily like each other.
Yeah.
But there's no division now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. How fucking funny.
So you were the problem.
I was the problem.
After all this.
100%. And like sometimes people didn't believe me. No, you give yourself too much credit. I was the problem. But the whole thing was, for me, it wasn't a problem. Like the amount of growth that I got, I really believe this, that in the, say, 6.5 years or 7 years that I was in Perth comedy, the amount of growth I had was the equivalent of what most people would get in 12 years.
Yes.
Because
you fast-tracked it.
Well,
because you went in with a goal.
World.
Yes, yeah. You had your own world, you had your own goals, you had a clear vision, and you just did it. There was no fluffing around with the fucking politeness and doing this and that.
And for the people who hated me, I really feel their growth wasn't stunted. They bonded together. They even had a couple extra rooms. They still did their thing. And then there were people who would go back and forth, and then there were people who would vocally say, "No, I like the guy." You know, like theirs wasn't stunted either. So there's something to be said for, in whatever you do, that the universe will mold around you to a degree. Like the whole, the thing about the multiverse, I know you're not a big fan of it, but I kind of have the idea that they talk about the soap bubbles in the sink. So each one of them's a different universe. And I kind of think that like you're the center of your own universe, and it's not that the other ones don't exist, it's that they have to move around you. I know that's not really a multiverse theory thing, but like you're this soap bubble and you're in the sink with everybody else, but you create a bubble around yourself that you either repel or you attract or whatever, and you do it probably unknowingly. If you do it knowingly, you don't really know, but you kind of have this belief that I'm in control. Yeah. You gain greater control. And
I think you do create your own reality, man. Like to a big extent. I think.
Well, when I say create your own reality, I mean this entire universe, everything you see, you revolve around me.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we've talked about the solipsism before.
Yeah, I can't fully believe that because it's too insane.
Yeah.
But I think the more you believe it, the more you create it. But then the problem is, that means you're like, I can kill anybody I want to.
Exactly, yeah. There's a level.
And like, when Jim Carrey and Will Smith talk and some of the things they do
Will Smith
on
is
stage.
That kind of shit,
yeah. Like
Jim Carrey's like full cooked though.
But you go, they're fucking cooked.
But the basis of it is right. But it's like,
took it too far.
Yeah.
Are we gonna wrap this shit show up?
Yeah, well, you fucking done?
I'm having fun.
I'm having fun too. I'm fucking hungry though, and
have you got a spoon?
Shut up, cunt. Don't you try and... I'm not eating your ass. That was the punchline of the joke. Fucking hell. Good shit. In the end, create your own... Some parting words, if you could sum it up in a couple sentences, what is the best way to progress through life?
Growth. That's it. Challenge yourself. Don't shy away from it, and just take stuff on, and basically try to. 50 Cent, and he say like, get rich or die trying. Like try to kill yourself beating the universe. Go like I kind of talk to the universe and I go, oh fucking bring it on. I'll fucking show you who the boss is. You get beat down a little bit, but like you got to have that mentality of I'm on the attack. I'm taking over. I'm not gonna have to hurt anybody as I do it, but I'm gonna show the universe how shit's supposed to run. If you do that, you can only move forward.
What's the downside as well?
There's no downside.
What is the downside to believing thinking that?
Everybody thinks you're nuts and distance themselves.
You get socially isolated and you end up on cope with Adrian Allenberg.
All right, this has been Massive Cope.
Thank you very much, guys. Jimmy, absolute pleasure. Beautiful conversation. Great stuff.
Hey.
Where can people check you out?
Love you.
I love you too.
I know.
Beautiful stuff.
They can't really, I don't know, social media or some bullshit. Jimmy Kuratz, comedian. Kuratz is spelled Kurat as in rat, Z.
Good, which is Croatian for dick.
That is correct.
There you go. The biggest dick I know. Guys, thank you so much. I've been Adrian Alberg. Thank you very much for joining us on Criminally Underrated Men. Catch you later, guys. Ciao. Arrivederci.